Humanity's heroes got wiped out, so they raised a massive magic wall to hold the Demon King back. For generations, mages powered this barrier while new heroes were constantly sent to the front lines. Every single one of them failed, though. They never came home, just their swords left behind. 30 years later, that wall is the only thing standing between the world and total ruin. This is Blake. He's a 39-year-old barrier mage. Just waking up, he starts his morning like any other, getting ready for the grind. His job is to keep that barrier up from his quiet, secluded little cabin. It basically involves casually waving at the horde of demons trying to smash through. Just another Tuesday, right? Holding back an army from hell while you drink your coffee. But today, he notices something off. The barrier feels a bit thinner than usual. He gets right to work, reinforcing the perimeter with his own raw magical power. A massive magic circle flares to life, shoving the demonic onslaught back into the dark. It is clearly taking a massive toll on him, though just to keep it from snapping. Blake realizes the wall is degrading faster lately, guzzling more mana than ever before. He just hopes some legendary hero shows up to end this nightmare for good. Meanwhile, a new hero is finally confronting the Demon King himself. She doesn't waste a second, charging forward and clashing with him in a violent burst of energy. With a deafening battle cry, she brings her holy sword down for the finishing blow. But the Demon King, he doesn't even look worried. She lands a devastating strike, driving her blade straight through his chest. He staggers back, coughing up blood, barely able to believe he's actually been taken down. The king collapses, muttering about how this outcome is just unforgivable. He fades into nothing, leaving the hero to stand tall and announce their hard-earned victory. A massive pillar of light erupts from the castle, signaling that the war is finally over. And our guy Blake sees it from his cabin, completely stunned by the sight. Surrounded by dissolving monster corpses, he wonders if the heroes really pulled it off. Looking up, he watches the demonic miasma finally begin to clear from the sky. The corrupted land itself starts to heal, changing right before his eyes. He's grinning ear to ear. The world is finally at peace. After 30 long years of holding the line, he's just happy everyone can live safely now. He can finally relax and just enjoy a clear blue sky for the first time in decades. But 1 month later, things take a turn. A group of knights shows up at his door. The leader points right at him, coldly stating that he isn't needed anymore. Blake is completely blindsided, just stammering in confusion at the sudden, harsh declaration. That knight then steps forward, eyes narrowing as he starts to make a serious accusation. The corrupted land starts to heal right before his eyes. He is grinning from ear to ear, realizing the truth. Finally, the world is at peace after 30 long years. He spent decades holding that barrier, just happy everyone is safe. He can finally relax, just enjoying the sight of a clear sky. For the first time in decades, 1 month later, though, a group of knights shows up at his quiet, secluded cabin. Their leader points right at him, coldly stating he is no longer needed. Blake is completely blindsided, just stammering in total confusion. This knight then accuses him of something completely absurd, calling him a fraud for wasting public funds on a useless barrier. Blake tries explaining his job, keeping miasma and monsters contained, but the knight just scoffs. He claims he does not care what some incompetent low-tier mage did. He then shoves Blake out of his own home, yelling that the hut and land now belong to the kingdom. So after 30 years of service, he gets kicked to the curb. With absolutely nothing, Blake cannot believe that after 30 years of dedicated service, this is how it ends. He has no other choice. He decides to head back to the village where he grew up, eventually. Arriving at the Adventurers Guild in a small town called Hatino, he is at the counter, looking at his payment, just a handful of coins. He immediately complains to the guild master that the reward is far too small. This guild master is not having it, getting right in his face, yelling at Blake not to complain since he is just a barrier mage, leaving our guy wondering if his 30 years were truly useless. The next day, he is back at the guild anyway, since he has no other prospects and is practically begging the receptionist for any kind of work, no matter how low the pay is. She just shuts him down, saying, "No one requests useless barrier mages anymore." So Blake desperately asks about odd jobs like weeding, but she says even those are gone, while two other adventurers in the back start mocking him for his useless class. Defeated, he just stands there alone at the counter with nowhere to go, until the door to the guild bursts open as someone calls out, and a royal knight steps inside, specifically asking for a barrier mage named Blake. Everyone in the guild is stunned, wondering why the royal knights are in this tiny village, so Blake nervously raises his hand, confirming that he is the one they are looking for. The knight gives him a cold, hard stare in return, and our boy has absolutely no idea what is going on here. This knight announces they are here on orders from the hero Alice to escort him to the capital. The adventurers who were just mocking him are completely losing their minds at the news. Blake calmly agrees to go, so the knight says they need to depart. Immediately, a ridiculously fancy carriage is waiting just for him, leaving the guild members to panic about whether they should apologize before they get into major trouble. With that, the carriage rolls out of the village, taking Blake on his unexpected trip. He is sitting inside, feeling totally out of his element in such a luxurious ride, still trying to process the fact that the hero summons him, and suddenly he remembers helping a young adventurer. He wonders if she actually recognizes him after all this time. They soon roll into the massive royal capital of the Hendria Kingdom. Miston is the name, a city so huge it honestly stuns him. He has never seen a place this big or so many people. Their carriage pushes through the bustling streets and across a bridge. They finally arrive, heading straight for the palace. Walking down a ridiculously grand hallway, Blake feels more out of place than ever. Then a voice calls out, making him look up in total surprise. It is Alice the hero, and she looks incredibly happy to see him. She asks if he remembers helping her near the demon realm. Blake confirms he does, and Alice is absolutely beaming. She is so glad he has not forgotten their past encounter. She thanks him again. He really saved her when she was lost. Blake plays it cool, saying it was not a big deal at all. He helped her friends too, back when everything was on the line. She explains her companions wanted to see him, but are tied up. Ceremonies are keeping them busy for now. Alice is totally hyped, asking what he will do now that war is over. Blake just laughs it off, though he is secretly panicking about being jobless. She immediately suggests he join the Royal Magician Corps. She really thinks it is a perfect fit for him. But some smug captain named Gunter shuts that down hard. He calls barrier mages incompetent. Alice is not having it. She reminds him barrier mages were why they even survived the war. Gunter just scoffs at her, claiming those barriers were basically useless anyway. He doubles down, saying barrier mages are completely unnecessary in this peaceful era. Blake is just floored, realizing how much his class reputation has tanked. 30 years have passed. He is clenching his fist. He is absolutely furious that his life work is treated like a joke. Then Gunter calls him an old man who is too washed up. This final insult claims Blake has zero skills worth mentioning. Now watch this. Alice is clearly ticked off by his attitude. She challenges him, asking if it is okay if Blake proves his worth. Gunter smugly agrees, saying if Blake beats him, he is in. He frames it as a test for a mid-career applicant. He needs to see if this guy is actually combat ready. Gunter puts Blake on the spot, asking what he will do now. Before he can answer, Alice whispers that she believes in him. Her words of encouragement seem to be exactly what he needed. He gets his game face on, ready to show them something real. The next thing you know, they are standing in a training yard. They face each other, the tension thick enough to cut. Oh boy is still wondering how he got roped into a duel, just for a chance to prove his worth to these people. Blake answers the summons while Gunter steps up to introduce himself. He is ready to throw down and prove his point right away. Gunter goes straight for the kill, launching a massive fireball. It screams toward Blake, but our guy just stands there, unbothered. The attack barrels into him, resulting in a huge explosion. It rocks the entire training yard while other mages start cheering. They think it is already over, and Gunter gets super smug. He laughs about teaching a lowly barrier mage a quick lesson, but his victory lap gets cut short when something feels off. Blake is still standing there without a single scratch on him. He just wonders aloud when the test is going to start. Everyone is completely stunned that he tanked that magic so easily. This leaves Gunter in total disbelief since he really tried to end him. Blake then casually mentions he will get a little serious now. That just makes Gunter rage out and power up even more. He prepares an even bigger attack. Watch how Blake handles this. Blake puts up a swirling blue barrier to block the incoming inferno. The attack explodes harmlessly against his defense, leaving the field clear. Gunter goes full anime villain, summoning a giant firebird to incinerate him. His own subordinates freak out, thinking he is going way too far. They are convinced no one could possibly survive a spell that size. But inside the flames, Blake is just calmly analyzing the magic. He finds it strangely weak and is honestly a bit confused. He wonders if Gunter is still holding back for some reason. As the smoke clears, everyone expects to see a giant crater. Instead, they find Blake standing there, looking perfectly fine. Gunter is absolutely speechless, still reeling from the impossible sight. He cannot process how a barrier mage is still standing tall. So he starts trash talking again, saying defense is totally useless. He yells that Blake cannot even attack and dares him to fight. Blake just calmly accepts the challenge, saying he will do exactly that. This completely short-circuits Gunter, who has no idea what he means. Blake summons a glowing blue cube right in front of his face. He launches it forward like a cannonball, absolutely decking the vice captain. Gunter gets sent flying backward, completely blindsided by the sudden impact. His subordinates just stare in shock, wondering what the hell happened. Now watch, Gunter is across the yard, screaming in pure frustration. He shouts that barrier mages should not be able to attack. Blake just casually explains he only moved the barrier he created. That makes Gunter even angrier since barriers are supposed to be stationary. What the hell just happened? From across the yard, Gunter is screaming that barrier mages shouldn't be able to attack like that. Blake just casually explains that all he did was move his barrier. This explanation makes Gunter even angrier since barriers are supposed to stay stationary. He is losing it. Gunter screams in pure disbelief as Blake. Our boy just laughs it off, says after 30 years he has gotten pretty good at this. Even Alice is stunned, whispering under her breath. Moving a barrier like that should be impossible. It is like he is cheating. The other mages finally get it. They realize this supposed useless mage is dominating their boss. Meanwhile, Gunter is having a full-on meltdown. He refuses to accept he is losing to someone he called trash. His pride is so shattered that he decides it is time to go for the kill. He gives a subtle look to his subordinate standing behind Blake. The guy looks hesitant, but he understands the order. They all start powering up, getting ready to jump our boy from behind. One of the mages lobs a cheap shot at Blake's back while he is distracted. The flame spell hits him dead on, erupting in a massive, fiery blast. But a passive barrier activates automatically. It completely negates the damage, leaving everyone absolutely stunned. Alice, though, looks like she totally expected it. Blake just turns around, asking if a stone hit him. He did not even realize it was an attack. Gunter is losing his mind, wondering how a barrier could just activate on its own. That is when Alice finally steps in. She has seen more than enough of this nonsense. She gives Gunter a stone-cold glare. She tells him he has seen the proof, and this is his only warning. But this guy's pride is so broken he refuses to accept the loss. He powers up for one last attack. He unleashes a massive inferno. He thinks going all out is the only way to impress Alice now. His own men start freaking out. They know he is casting advanced magic that will hit them too. Gunter is completely unhinged, screaming that he is going to end this with his full power. Then he launches the giant fireball straight at our boy, yelling for him to die. The other mages are scrambling for their lives, screaming for everyone to run. Alice just stands there calmly. She knows a normal barrier cannot stop that. But Blake is not normal. She flashes back to the time he saved her when she was just a kid. Surrounded by giant monsters, the memory of his protection fills her with absolute confidence. She remembers how he effortlessly created a barrier that wiped out every single enemy. That brings her back to the present. Now watch this. She knows without a doubt he will not lose. Gunter can only scream in disbelief as Blake stops his ultimate attack with just 2 fingers. Gunter is on his knees, completely shattered by his own pathetic defeat. He is totally losing it, realizing his strongest magic was completely useless. His subordinates see he is out of mana, which means his time is finally up. Stops his ultimate attack with just 2 fingers. Gunter is on his knees, completely shattered by his own pathetic defeat. He is totally losing his mind, realizing his strongest magic was useless. His subordinates see he is out of mana, which means... Wait, take a look at this. Here is where the real trouble starts. The barrier mage wins and Alice declares his victory with total confidence. She announces this proves Blake is fully qualified to join the team. She points out that he has been single-handedly holding the line, protecting the entire world for 30 years, all on his own. Gunter, desperate to save face, demands to know where the other mages are. A nearby knight reports that an investigation has just been completed. The other mages are long gone and this news hits like a truck. It completely breaks Gunter. He is spiraling now. They either died, deserted, or got caught embezzling funds years ago. This leads everyone to one insane realization. Blake was holding the line all by himself this whole time. Even Blake is just now connecting the dots in his head. That is exactly why his mana kept growing all these years. Gunter is still screaming in total denial, ranting at the sky. He claims the demon world is too big to be managed alone. He just cannot wrap his head around Blake doing this scale of work. Alice is beaming, thinking Blake is even more amazing than she remembered. Suddenly, a new voice cuts through the chaos and tension. It asks what all this pathetic commotion is actually about. Gunter looks absolutely terrified, frozen in his tracks. He recognizes the person who just arrived on the scene. It is the captain of the first unit, Lancelot, and he is furious. This guy is the top dog of the entire Royal Magician Corps. He makes Gunter look smaller with every step he takes. He walks right up to the disgraced vice captain, demanding answers. Alice calmly explains that she recommended Blake for the position. She mentions Gunter doubted his abilities and started this fight. Alice quickly clarifies they were only conducting a simple practical test. Lancelot glares at Gunter, taking in the scene with cold eyes. He points out that Gunter clearly lost the fight, plain and simple. Gunter immediately starts stammering, making pathetic excuses. He claims he was just going easy on a lowly barrier mage. The captain cuts him off, clearly done with these lies. Our boy Gunter is sweating, totally unable to talk his way out. Lancelot is not having any of this anymore. He lays down the law. If you have the skills, you are in. He turns to Blake and officially welcomes him into the elite corps. The other mages around them cannot even believe what they heard. They whisper about how a barrier mage actually made the cut. Blake is still trying to process that he is joining the unit. He is having a bit of imposter syndrome about the whole thing, wondering if he is really cut out for this level of duty. Until Alice snaps him out of his days with a smile. She congratulates him, saying she believed in him all along. Blake gives her all the credit, brushing it off, ready to move on. She celebrates with some food, and that's when Lancelot pops up, right behind her, asking if she really has time for that. He grabs Alice, dragging her back to work while she keeps calling out. She screams for Blake as she is hauled away. That captain turns. He gets right in Blake's face, demanding to know his bond with our hero. Alice, he gives Blake a cold, subtle warning about opportunists. People trying to use her for their own gain. With that, he leads Blake. He walks away, leaving a totally humiliated Gunter watching. From a distance, Gunter is seething, his pride completely shattered by this whole ordeal. A few days later, we see Blake staring at a document with a shocked look, realizing he is standing right in front of the massive Royal Magician Core Dormitory. Blake wanders the massive dorms, completely lost and trying to find his room, while some other trainees immediately start judging him, calling him a shabby old commoner. Feeling the awkward vibes, our boy just decides to ignore them and keep looking. And he finally spots his room number, looking pretty relieved to have found it. He cheerfully opens the door, ready to meet his new roommate for the first time, only to find a fiery redhead named Sven, who immediately asks who the hell he is. Blake introduces himself, but Sven is just stuck on the fact that he is rooming with an old man. This kid then connects the dots, realizing Blake is the legendary new guy who beat Gunter and calls him a liar. Oh boy just sheepishly admits that yeah, his story sounds pretty unbelievable, which sends Sven into a state of shock, leaving Blake to wonder if the kid is even okay. Sven completely loses it, screaming that his life is over now that he has teamed up with a liar. When Blake asks what he means, Sven explains that roommates are automatically on the same trainee team. Blake just apologizes for being old and promises he will not be a burden, which seems to calm the kid down a little bit, making him feel kinda bad. Sven then points out Blake's messy hair and offers to give him a quick trim before training. And just like that, they are bonding over a haircut. With Blake feeling totally refreshed, Sven suddenly remembers they are about to be late for their first training session, telling Blake to hurry and get into his new uniform. Meanwhile, two other new trainees, Teresa and Clara, are waiting for their teammates when Blake and Sven show up. The girls just stare, wondering who the random old guy is. Blake tries to introduce himself to his new teammates, Teresa and Clara, and Teresa immediately starts complaining about having an old guy. Clara tells Terry's to chill out, but Terry's just calls her out. She knows Clara is thinking the exact same thing. Our boy feels pretty awkward being the only older recruit here. An instructor calls him to the front for introductions. Blake steps up, giving them a simple, calm greeting. He announces he is a barrier mage. The crowd starts whispering instantly. They are connecting him to the rumor about beating Gunter. Clara looks on with total skepticism, finding the story hard to believe. Therese is in denial that this old man could be that powerful. Sven, on the other hand, is having a complete meltdown. He thinks they are doomed with a weak barrier mage. From the sidelines, a blonde instructor gives Blake a nasty glare. Clearly, she is not a fan of this guy. She gets on stage and announces that no one has a division yet. Their training performance will decide their final placement in the Corps. She reveals the first test is a 2-week survival exercise. They have to hunt monsters deep in Mecha Forest. All the other trainees start freaking out. That forest is notoriously dangerous. The instructor smirks at Blake, telling him he is unlucky. She orders everyone to go get their gear. Sen is still panicking, saying newbies cannot survive out there. The whole team turns to Blake, begging him not to hold them back. He just quietly agrees. Everyone is ordered into dragon-drawn carriages for transport. That same smug instructor gives Blake a final, evil look. She is promising to show him hell. Sven is losing his mind once they are dropped off. Blake just calmly walks along like it is another Tuesday. The kids realize they have been dumped in the middle of nowhere. It sinks in that they have been totally isolated from other teams. Basically, they drew the short straw. Finn spirals, screaming that his dream career is already over. Darius immediately calls him out for being a pathetic team leader. He yells back that he did not ask for the job. Blake tries to play peacemaker, but they both snap at him. Our boy stays completely unfazed. He suggests they check the map to get their bearings. That is enough to get the two hotheads to stop bickering. They look at the map and realize they are deep in Mecha Forest. They have a long way to go. Blake just smiles and says they should probably get a move on. Sven tries to act like a leader, steals himself, and agrees. They have no choice but to push forward. The team starts their long, brutal march through the rocky wilderness. And the trek through thick, tangled brush doesn't get any easier. Soon enough, the younger mages are totally gassed. Packs heavy, terrain rough. They are really feeling the strain now. But then they notice something strange. Blake isn't even sweating. Is the old man just built different? They start to wonder. Finally, Blake calls it. They have reached the forest entrance. A massive relief hits them all at once. They look up at the dark, intimidating shadow of Mecha Forest. This is it. The real test is about to begin. Sven points out the deadly miasma, enough to kill anyone instantly. The team checks their mission details one last time. First target, a level to Komodo dragon. Blake asks what this whole level system even means. Sven completely short-circuits, stunned by the question. So the kid proudly breaks down the 10-tier monster ranking system. Blake just thanks him, letting Sven have his little expert moment. He's clearly enjoying being the smartest guy in the room. The girls are already pushing into the forest. The guys have to scramble to keep up with them. Finally, the whole team is moving as one through the spooky trees. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes stops everyone cold. High alert, a pack of nasty goblins leaps out to ambush them. The team freezes, realizing their first real test has arrived. Sven and Clara are the first to spot the incoming threat. Yeah, it is a classic goblin welcome party. They look absolutely ready to tear into someone. Sven just smirks, calling them weak level 1 monsters. He starts powering up a fire spell, totally overconfident. Declaring he can handle this all by himself, he launches the attack. But his spell only clips one of them, the other to dodge and lunge right at his throat. He is wide open until a purple binding spell freezes them solid. Clara saved his butt, stepping in just in the nick of time. Sven is totally embarrassed, face turning bright red. He grumbles that he didn't need any help at all. Theres just points out his injury and starts healing him up. Blake watches the whole chaotic mess unfold. He is getting a real feel for how his new teammates work. The girls start roasting Sven for his massive ego. He can only apologize, looking like a total dummy. With their first skirmish over, the team pushes deeper in. Just as they walk, a massive man-eating plant sneaks up behind. It snaps shut, jaws closing on thin air, but Blake trips. It snaps shut, but Blake accidentally trips right into the mess. He drags them out of harm's way just in time and plays it off cool. He mutters an apology for tripping, while the kids just stare at him, confused. But we see the truth. He secretly cast a spell to carve a safe path. Blake points ahead, claiming he found a better route when he stumbled. And Sven totally buys it. The girls are already on the move, trailing him through the thick, dense forest. Our guy just gives a little smirk. His plan to keep them safe is working. He leads them to a cliff's edge, claiming he can hear water off in the distance. They find a river to camp by, but nobody notices the danger nearby. Dozens of glowing red eyes watch them hungrily from the dark trees. Later that night, Blake takes first watch while everyone else sleeps by the fire. Of course, a massive lion beast creeps out, ready to pounce on him. The monster lunges, going for the kill on the seemingly oblivious Blake. But it gets absolutely decked by a surprise barrier that sends it flying sideways. Blake just glances back as the beast whimpers in the riverbed. Sven wakes up at the noise, asking if he heard something, but Blake stays calm. He casually tells the kid it was nothing, go back to sleep. He promises to wake Sven when it's his turn for watch. Sven is actually grateful, thanking him before crawling back into his sleeping bag. Our boy just smiles, happy to see the team finally starting to trust him. For the rest of the night, he keeps a silent, glowing vigil over the camp. The next day, Sven can't help but notice how weirdly easy their journey has been. Clara starts getting suspicious, wondering if Blake is secretly clearing the path. But Thérèse just wants this mission over with, urging them toward the dragon's nest. Meanwhile, that smug instructor gloats to himself, certain he sent them to their doom. Now watch this, here is where the trap finally snaps shut. He reveals the truth, their target is not a Komodo dragon at all. Instead, the team comes face to face with a massive level for salamander. Thérèse immediately panics, screaming that a monster that strong could wipe out a village. The beast corners them, cutting off any chance of escape. This sends Sven into a state of shock, completely paralyzed by raw fear. He has already given up, convinced there is no way they can win this fight. These girls are not doing much better, huddling together in pure, chilling terror. The salamander starts charging a massive fireball attack. It unleashes a huge wave of fire, heading directly for them. Not a simple path at all. The team comes face to face with a massive level for salamander. Thérèse immediately panics, screaming that a monster that strong could wipe out a village. This beast quickly corners them, cutting off any chance of escape. It sends Sven into a state of shock, completely paralyzed by fear. He has already given up, convinced there is absolutely no way to win. These girls are not doing much better, huddling together in pure terror. Right as the salamander starts charging up a massive fireball, it unleashes a huge wave of fire, but Blake doesn't even flinch. He has his crystal gauntlet ready to throw down for real this time. With his eyes glowing, Blake winds up a heavy punch. The trainees brace for the end, but suddenly the heat just vanishes. They open their eyes to see Blake standing right in front of them. He's holding up a massive barrier, and they just stare in total disbelief. Finally, it clicks. The old man is actually protecting them. The salamander doesn't let up, blasting the shield with everything it has. Sven is losing it, screaming that they're still trapped and doomed. But Blake, he just takes a calm step forward, straight into the flames. His team watches in shock as he walks toward the raging monster. He gives them a cool smile. "Just wait here," he says. "I'll go handle this." Sven is freaking out, convinced Blake is just playing the decoy. He reaches out as the boy walks deeper into the fire, back turned. Poor kid is sure there's no way a barrier mage takes down a salamander. Clara, ever the pragmatist, says they need to bolt once his shield drops. Sven argues back, not wanting to leave the old man to die. Just then, Thérèse notices something weird happening to the fire. Looking through the barrier, they see the flames have completely vanished. The team stares in confusion, trying to wrap their heads around it. On the other side, Blake shoots a cool, confident look toward the beast. His magic flares up, and in one blinding flash, he obliterates it. That energy blast was massive. He stands there as the monster's remains rain down, totally unfazed. His team is frozen in shock. He just one-shot a level for monster. Blake glances over his shoulder like it was absolutely nothing at all. But wait, the salamander's body starts glowing, reforming for round 2. It blasts him with another fireball, but Blake casually dodges in midair. He lands perfectly, riding a wave of his own magic to absorb the impact. The monster is back on its feet, roaring and looking even more pissed off. It unleashes a barrage, trying to overwhelm him, but Blake keeps his cool. He forms a hand sign, gathering an insane amount of blue energy. A massive crystal gauntlet manifests around his arm, ready to throw down. His eyes glow as he winds up for a heavy strike. And here's the kicker. He connects a direct hit to the jaw. That blast demolishes the monster in a huge explosion of blue light. He lands without a single scratch, the beast dissolving all around him. Our boy just straightens his pack, casually declaring the fight over. Inside, he's thinking this level is just getting started. That massive crystal gauntlet connects right to the salamander's jaw. It absolutely demolishes the monster in a huge explosion of blue energy. He lands without a scratch as the beast remains dissolved around him. Our boy just straightens his pack, casually declaring the fight is over. He is thinking to himself that this level for Beast was just a warm-up. Our boy, ever the humble one, says they all worked hard to overcome it. He insists he barely did anything to help, which is the biggest lie ever told. This just makes the kids like him more, finally accepting him as a true teammate. That monster felt pretty weak compared to what he used to face. His team just stares, jaw-dropping disbelief written all over their faces. They start losing it, freaking out about a barrier mage being this strong. Blake brushes it off, claiming he is not that special at all. He just says he got used to hunting while on barrier duty back home. Clara finally gets it. He is a master, using barriers for offense, defense, and mobility. And our guy just smiles, happy they finally see him as something more than an old man. Meanwhile, that smug instructor is still gloating in the background. He is totally convinced that the weak barrier mage is dead and gone. The guy keeps monologuing about all the deadly traps he set to ensure they failed. He is congratulating his lackey on a job well done. Certain Team F has been wiped out. Right on cue, an announcement rings out. Team F is the first to return. And there they are, looking just fine, not a scratch on them. The instructor turns around, his face a perfect picture of pure confusion. He completely loses his cool, screaming about how they could possibly be alive. He tries to settle down, assuming they just ran away with no proof of their mission. Then Spen steps forward, getting his attention to take a real look. The kid proudly holds up a giant salamander fang, boasting about their top-tier result. That instructor is absolutely losing his mind, unable to believe a bunch of dropouts won. A much friendlier staffer congratulates Team F, boosting their score on the spot. But the team is confused, since their survey showed no high-level monsters on that route. Spen is loving all the attention, but Clara quickly reminds him it was thanks to Blake. The girls all agree they could never have done it without him guiding them through. Our boy, ever the humble one, insists he barely did anything to help out. It is the biggest lie ever, but the kids just like him more for it. They finally accept him as a true teammate, a solid guy who has their backs. Clara, though, is still putting pieces together, realizing their situation was far too coincidental. From the shadows, that jerk instructor is still fuming over their success. He vows he is not going to let this barrier mage make a fool of him again. A few days later, he announces a new competition-style training session for the students. Since the main area is packed, the team decides to use a quieter secondary ground. And just like that, they walk straight into exactly what the instructor was hoping for. He really is a good guy, but Clara is still putting the pieces together. She is realizing their entire situation was far too dangerous to be a coincidence. It is the biggest lie ever told, playing the hero to win them over. And it works. The kids finally see him as a real teammate. Clara, though, is still piecing it all together. She knows something is off. She realizes their situation is too convenient to just let Etta fix everything. That jerk instructor is watching from the shadows, fuming over their success. He swears he won't let this barrier mage make a fool of him. A few days later, he announces a new competition-style training for everyone. The main area is way too packed, so the team finds a quiet spot. That secondary ground exactly where the instructor wanted them. He corners Team F, acting like he has the full authority to do whatever. Then, he fires Gunter on the spot, threatening him with a total demotion. He watches them head out, a twisted supervillain smirk spreading across his face. They have no idea they're walking straight into his trap. Once they arrive, a stranger is already waiting, and he's hyping up. A spar with Blake, but the newcomer, Vice Captain. Gunter steps in to offer his own brand of personal instruction. Sven and Clara are completely blindsided, wondering why a high ranking Vice Captain is even here. He immediately barks at them. to stop whispering and pay attention, then snaps at Blake, telling him to just stand on the sidelines. Like an idiot and watch, Gunther gets right to it, announcing his special instruction for the recruits, and without any warning, he absolutely flattens Theris with a brutal surprise attack. Clara rushes over to help her injured friend, who is already trying to heal herself. The guy just mocks them for not taking this seriously, saying they'd be dead in a real battle. He orders Finn to get back on his feet because this one-sided beatdown is far from over. When Blake tries to intervene, Gunther tells him to stay put, sneering that he's only training the weaklings. Our boy just glares. He clearly hates being forced to watch his team get bullied. Gunther absolutely loves seeing Blake's frustrated face, taunting him for being a useless barrier mage. Then he turns his attention back to Sven, screaming at him to get into position while he starts charging a nasty, volatile fire spell right in his palms. He threatens to move the kid himself if he doesn't comply. And with a maniacal laugh, he unleashes a massive fire beam directly at the trainees, blasting them with everything he has. The impact creates a massive explosion, kicking up a thick wall of smoke and dust. Gunther turns to Blake with a smug grin, claiming his hand slipped because Blake disrespected him. He tries to play it cool, saying he didn't kill them, just got a little too passionate with the training. He gestures toward the smoke, telling Blake to look at the mess he made of his team. But as the smoke clears, the kids are standing there perfectly fine, shielded inside a glowing blue barrier. The vice captain completely loses it, screaming about how they could possibly be unhurt. As he looks closer, he realizes it's a high-level barrier, wondering if the old man was the one who cast it. Gunther is sweating bullets, trying to figure out how Blake pulled that off without anyone noticing. Just then, a crowd of other students shows up, confused as to why Team F is fighting the vice captain. Gunther tries to save face, claiming he was just giving them guidance and was about to stop anyway. The kids are absolutely fuming. They know this was bullying from the start. Blake doesn't say a word, just gives a silent, determined glare. He's clearly done with this guy's nonsense for good. Teresa gets back on her feet, declaring she wants to win this together. Inspired, the rest of the kids stand tall, ready to fight for real. Watching their resolve, Blake actually gives a small, proud smile. Sven yells at the vice captain to keep the training going. They aren't backing down now, not after everything. The crowd starts cheering for the underdogs, loud and wild. Gunther looks even more annoyed, his face twisting in pure rage. He realizes he's trapped, knowing he'll look weak if he stops now. The team snaps into formation, hyped up and ready to coordinate. Gunther just scoffs, confident a bunch of dropouts have zero chance. He launches another massive fireball straight at the team. But Sven and Clara don't flinch, they charge right through. Blake's barrier holds steady, shielding them from the brunt of the heat. Gunther loses his mind, screaming about the barrier and calling Blake a coward. The team fires back, calling him out for his own cheap shots. Their combined attack actually connects, hitting the vice captain dead on. Sven can't believe it. He shouts that they actually landed a hit. Gunther is far from finished, looking absolutely murderous now. He promises they won't get away with this. The kids are totally freaked out by his dark, hateful glare. But just as Gunther moves, Blake steps in front of the team. Watch this, our boy gives him a look that says it is over. He is not backing down an inch. Suddenly, another instructor shows up, yelling at them to cut it out. He immediately shuts down Gunther's pathetic excuse about providing guidance. This guy calls him out for holding a personal grudge against Blake. He reveals he has investigated the whole thing with full authority. He fires Gunther on the spot, telling him to prepare for a demotion. Gunther completely snaps, unable to process what is actually happening. He keeps blaming it all on one person, that barrier mage, Blake. Elsewhere, the team celebrates his downfall, finally catching their breath. Clara confirms that the entire exercise was just a trap set for him. Blake tries to apologize for the trouble, feeling responsible for the whole mess. Gunter snaps. He can't even process it, blaming everything on one person. That barrier mage, Blake. Elsewhere, the team celebrates his downfall, debriefing the whole mess. Clara confirms the truth. The entire exercise was just a trap for that old man. Blake tries to apologize for the trouble, feeling responsible for the whole thing. Now watch this. They reach a zone choked with a nasty purple miasma. Eda turns to Blake immediately, asking if he can create a moving barrier. They barely survive the experience, heading straight back to the Institute. The assistant congratulates everyone on a successful mission. The kids shut that mess down fast, telling him it wasn't his fault at all. With the danger finally gone, they crowd around, dying to know his secret. They are desperate to figure out how he got so strong so quickly. And they're begging to know where he learned that crazy barrier magic. Our boy starts sweating bullets, totally unprepared to answer that. If he talks, he blows his cover right then and there. Just then, a mysterious woman appears, claiming she's there to escort him. She says she's here for Master Blake on behalf of Lady Eda, the Witch of Wisdom. Blake is caught completely off guard, pointing at himself in pure confusion. This woman just grabs his hand, insisting they have to leave right away. That leaves the girl nearby looking totally stunned. She realizes Eda was part of the original heroes party. Now she's left wondering who Blake really is. The scene shifts. We cut to the Hendria Kingdom's Magic Research Institute. As he's being led inside, he's greeted by a girl in a signature witch hat. She clearly knows him. This is Eda, the Witch of Wisdom. She's the director of this entire facility. And get this, she's only 13. Blake just casually pats her on the head, happy to see an old friend. Her assistant immediately freaks out, scolding him for being so disrespectful. Our boy just looks confused, asking if he actually did something wrong. He's totally missing the point, but Eda herself doesn't seem to mind at all. She quickly cuts to the chase and gets right down to business. She explains that she needs his help with a very specific, high-stakes task. They need to capture monsters alive, but it's proving nearly impossible. These creatures just go berserk, and physical cages don't hold them. Eda needs to study live specimens to analyze their ecology. That is the only way to find a real counter to the miasma. Blake realizes this is a huge deal for the kingdom. Right now, only heroes can handle that toxic miasma in the demon realm. Eda gets right to it, asking if he can use barriers to catch level 5 monsters. The researchers in the room look completely stunned by the request. They honestly think there is no way a simple barrier mage could pull that off. But Blake, without even hesitating, calmly says he thinks he can handle it. Watch his face. He's not even breaking a sweat. That makes the assistant even more shocked, demanding to know what he just said. He just repeats himself, confirming that yeah, capturing a level 5 monster is totally doable. Eda just gives this little smirk, clearly knowing exactly what he was capable of. He's just thinking back to that salamander fight from earlier. If that was a level 4, a level 5 should be no problem. The assistant absolutely loses it, accusing him of lying through his teeth. She's convinced he's just trying to look good in front of the director. She keeps screaming that he's a fraud while Blake just stays calm. It's a total scene, and he's just standing there looking like he's bored. Honestly, you have to wonder if he even realizes how insane that claim sounds. He just stands there while she loses her mind. He tries to reassure her, telling her it'll all work out just fine. But Eda finally puts her foot down, declaring the matter fully settled. She shuts down the argument, while her assistant stays bowed in shame. The assistant keeps apologizing for her outburst, while Blake moves to smooth everything over, promising he'll make sure this mission counts as his training. That really gets the assistant thinking, making her even more suspicious now. She's wondering if he's actually blackmailing the Witch of Wisdom herself. She gets this super serious look, vowing to protect Eda from him. Oh boy, meanwhile, is just getting a really bad vibe from her. He's feeling pretty worried, but Etta just ignores all the brewing drama. She announces they are heading out to the abandoned Berberon mine. They're going to hunt some monsters, and she's looking absolutely determined. She rallies the troops, telling everyone it's high time to move out. The entire expedition rides out of the city on these cool dinosaur mounts. Blake and Etta chat while they ride, keeping the mood light. He mentions he already ran into their old party member, Alice. Etta just laughs, says that sounds exactly like something Alice would do. Her assistant watches from behind, still totally confused by their closeness. She doesn't get why a mere barrier mage is so near her boss. Now watch this. Etta starts reminiscing, telling Blake something important. She says he saved her life back in the Forest of Death. We get a flashback to Blake hunting near the Dark Demon realm. He says he found Alice under attack, right in the thick of it. This scene shows him finding a much younger, badly injured Alice. She was barely conscious, begging him to go save her trapped comrades. So he picked her up and started searching the area for them. Eventually, he found a young Etta, completely surrounded by nasty monsters. Etta finished the story, admitting she was lost and truly doomed. She would have died if he hadn't shown up to save her. Blake, ever the humble one, just brushes the whole thing off. That makes Etta smile, says he hasn't changed a bit since then. As they ride on, a bunch of local kids start running alongside. They're cheering for the heroes, and Blake admits he's a little jealous. He's been alone since he was a kid, so seeing them hurts. When he asks if Etta ever played like that, she just scoffs, claims she was a genius with no time for silly childhood games. You see that look? She's clearly proud of her cool past. The local kids keep running alongside them, still cheering for the heroes. They finally arrive at the Berberon mine, and it looks grim. The whole place is absolutely choked with this nasty purple miasma. Etta immediately turns to Blake, asking if he can help them out. She needs a moving barrier to get them all through the haze. Our boy offers to stick around during their research, just in case. Etta appreciates the gesture, rallying the team to finally analyze the miasma. Researchers get to work, while Blake just chills in a chair nearby, safely, while her assistant immediately calls it impossible. Our boy just casually says, "Yeah, I can do that," without missing a beat. He starts casting his spell. A bright, blue aura flares up around him. He then just walks straight into the thick miasma, disappearing from sight. For a moment, which has the assistant totally freaking out, calling him a suicidal show-off. But Blake just pops back into view, totally fine in his bubble, asking if they're coming. Or not, Etta just smirks, telling everyone to follow him. Since his barrier is clearly working just fine, her researchers are just standing there, jaws on the floor, completely stunned by what they're seeing. Now inside the mine, the whole team walks safely within his moving barrier. Still in disbelief, this assistant tries to save face, acting like it's no big deal, but she's obviously shaken. As they venture deeper, Etta points out there are no monsters, just a miasma pool up ahead. Blake figures there must be a creature causing it, but Etta explains it could also be a cursed object. We get a quick lesson on how negative entities like cursed items can generate this stuff, and how that miasma then spawns monsters, which create even more miasma in a vicious cycle. The ultimate result of this process, they explained, was the birth of the Demon King himself. Etta explains that taking out a source monster also wipes out its spawns, just like what happened with the Demon King. But she points out that not all monsters vanished, which is why this research is so important. If they can figure out the mechanics of miasma, they can finally create a permanent countermeasure. As she's talking, though, she completely trips over a loose rock in the dark mine, and Blake instantly catches her. Before she can even hit the ground, he asks if she's all right, while she looks a little flustered by the sudden save. Oh boy then offers to carry her on his back since the terrain is so dangerous. which has her assistant absolutely losing her mind, yelling at him for treating a genius like a child. Etta just brushes them both off, insisting she's fine, and telling everyone to keep moving. They finally reach a chamber where the miasma is incredibly thick. Confirming the source is inside, suddenly a massive hoof slams down right in front of them with a huge impact, revealing a totally jacked minotaur roaring with pure rage. The researchers immediately start freaking out, identifying it as a level 5 monster. Blake just tells the overprotective assistant to stand back, declaring that they're going to capture it, but the minotaur is already on the attack. Hurling huge boulders at the cowering mages, it lets out another deafening roar, pure, raw power radiating everywhere. The energy shakes the whole cave, leaving the assistant feeling totally overwhelmed. Honestly, she is just annoyed by this whole mess. Etta quickly realizes their standard magic just won't cut it, shouting that they need Blake to step in. Her assistant panics, turning to her, desperately asking if the legendary Witch of Wisdom can actually handle this. But Etta is frozen. She looks completely out of her depth against this monster. These researchers immediately rally behind Etta, insisting their leader can take it. With her team's full support, she finally steels herself to face the beast. This minotaur is an absolute unit, towering over her like she's nothing. Blake watches from the sidelines, looking seriously concerned for his friend. Etta grips her staff, trying to muster the courage to cast a spell, but the creature just lets out a deafening roar. Ready to crush her, he leaps back, trying to create space for a counter. That's when Blake's eyes narrow. He has seen enough of this. Just as the minotaur raises its weapon for the killing blow, a massive crystalline barrier materializes out of nowhere, blocking the attack cold. Every researcher there is staring in total shock, wondering what that thing is, because right now, a level 5 monster is trapped inside a giant, glowing magic box. Of course, our boy Blake is standing right there, having casually saved the day once again. This overprotective assistant immediately tries to stop him, yelling at him for interfering, but Etta herself screams at her to knock it off. She reminds her that capturing the monster was Blake's job from the very start. Though the assistant remains skeptical, Etta just tells her to open her eyes and actually watch what is happening. Because Blake's barrier isn't just holding the beast, it's purify the miasma, weakening it from the inside out. Her assistant is completely floored, admitting she had no idea barriers could even do that. Even Etta is stunned, realizing a level 5 monster was just neutralized by power far beyond her own. But Etta quickly brushes off the praise, looking a little flustered by the whole thing. She tells her team that since the monster is captured, it is time to head back immediately. She thanks Blake for saving them, asking him to keep the creature contained on the way home. Without another word, she just turns and marches out of the cave, leaving Blake to wonder if she's still shaken up from that near-death experience. Once they are back at the Institute, the assistant congratulates everyone on a successful hunt. Etta is completely absorbed, studying a sample for hours on end. She pores over books, trying to crack the secrets of the miasma. The minotaur stands trapped right in the middle of the main hall, locked inside Blake's glowing barrier. Even his assistant has to admit these barriers are incredibly convenient for moving such a massive beast. She asks him how long he can actually keep it up. He says it's basically semi-permanent, as long as he stays nearby. But get this, he explains that if he leaves, the magic supply cuts out. The barrier would eventually fail on its own. So, trying to one-up him, the assistant immediately suggests they just recapture it using Ida's magic instead. Blake just smiles and pulls a pre-made magic circle right out of a scroll. He says this should solve the problem. He places it on the floor, explaining he designed it to automatically maintain barriers for long periods. The assistant suddenly recalls seeing a massive circle like this near the demon realm, She wonders out loud who that genius creator could possibly be. Blake just chuckles. She puts it all together, asking in pure disbelief, "Was that actually you?" He confirms it, saying he whipped it up 30 years ago when he was just 9. Back then, the demon realm's miasma was spreading fast. All the barrier mages were gathered, desperate to stop it. Since they were stuck holding the line 24/7, he invented a circle to store and supply magic for them. His grand plan was to build one giant seal for the entire demon realm. Eventually, he was the only mage left standing. He laughs, saying it took a ton of magic power, which is probably why he was always so exhausted as a kid. Blake just smiles at the stunned researchers, asking if something is wrong. The assistant is practically demanding to know why he isn't bragging about a world-changing invention like that. He just brushes it off and gets back to business. He places the magic circle on the floor, pouring his mana into it to activate the semi-permanent barrier. Energy flows from the scroll, solidifying that containment field around the Minotaur. He casually mentions this should hold it for at least a few hours. Our guy then offers to stick around during their research just in case. Etta appreciates that. With the monster secured, she rallies her team to finally begin analyzing the miasma. The researchers get to work, while Blake just chills in a chair, keeping an eye on things. Etta is completely absorbed in her work, studying a sample she collected. Hours pass as she pores over books, trying to crack the secrets of the miasma. Eventually, the assistant and the other researchers pack up and head home for the night. It leaves Blake to realize that Etta is the only one still left working. Eventually, the assistant and the researchers pack up and head home for the night. Blake realizes Etta is the only one left working. You can tell her genius is just too far beyond them. Her lead assistant is the worst, basically saying they should let Etta solve everything. That is when Blake walks up, shutting down their conversation cold. They demand to know what he means, but he calls them out, praising her as a genius while dumping all the work on a 13-year-old. The assistant immediately loses it, yelling at him for treating a legend like a child. Others chime in, insisting she is a mature adult on the inside. Blake just doesn't get why they think that. Working in the lab, Etta tells him she's prepped a room nearby. He just needs to be on standby for any emergency magic. When he asks about her, Etta says she has to keep pushing. People are counting on her to stop those monsters. Hearing that, Blake decides on the spot he's staying too. Etta asks if he's just trying to be polite, telling him it's not necessary. But he hits her with a smooth lie. He's just worried. He tells her the new barrier might fail without a backup on site. She just turns her back, muttering that he can do whatever he wants. And he smiles. You better believe he's staying. A week goes by and that Minotaur is still just chilling in its prison. Blake watches as another researcher clocks out for the day. Soon enough, the whole team has bailed. They leave Etta completely buried in a mountain of books. He catches the lead assistant on her way out. He needs to know why they're leaving Etta to work all night alone. She gets defensive fast, telling him to mind his own business. But Blake keeps pressing, pointing out how long she's been at this solo. The assistant just scoffs. He doesn't get it. She says Etta is a genius. They'd only slow her down. Apparently, she's so far ahead that nobody can even keep up. They can't grasp her thought process, so they do their part by day. Then they just get out of her way once the sun goes down. She even tells Blake he should go home since he isn't needed. She walks off, leaving him standing alone in the hallway. Our boy lets out a tired sigh. He's clearly not a fan of that logic. He decides to check in on Etta. He peeks into the research room and finds her passed out at her desk. She's totally wiped from the exhaustion. Surrounded by piles of papers and books, she's drifted off to sleep. Blake moves in and gently drapes his cloak over her shoulders. A few days later, it's lunchtime and everyone's taking a break. While the others are hyped for steak, Ada's stuck at her desk. She's just grabbing a piece of bread to keep going. Blake suggests she take a real break, but she just apologizes for the delay. He insists he's staying by choice, not because he has to. She finally agrees to stop, looking completely worn down. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is enjoying a full meal in the hall. They're sitting around, praising Ida's incredible dedication. They've convinced themselves they're just in the way. In their minds, her genius is just beyond their reach. The lead assistant is the worst of the bunch. She's basically saying they should just stay out of her hair. But he explains it calmly. Having talent doesn't make you an adult emotionally. He flashes back to when they were younger, riding together, and remembers it all. That is the exact moment Blake walks up to their table. He shuts down their conversation cold. Everyone is instantly on edge. They demand to know what he means. The tension is thick enough to cut. He calls them out for praising her like a genius while dumping the load. Just dump everything on a 13-year-old. Is that really the plan? The assistant loses it, instantly blowing up at him, yelling that he is talking down to the greatest magician in history. Others chime in, swearing she is a mature adult on the inside. Blake just stares. He does not get it. He really does not get it. But our guy stays calm. Talent does not make you emotionally mature. A flash of memory hits him, riding together when they were kids. He thinks to himself that this is just karma catching up to him. He recalls how she used to gaze so longingly at other kids. Just being kids. He also remembers how terrified she was, facing that minotaur in the cave. He keeps reminding himself. She is smart, she is kind, and that is why she pushes herself, always trying so hard to live up to everyone else's expectations. He puts the assistant on the spot. Can you really call Eda an adult? As she walks by, he asks them if any of them have tried to actually understand what she is feeling inside. He turns with a piercing glare. Do you not want to help your friend? That leaves the whole group stunned, sitting there in total silence, finally realizing they might be the ones causing all these problems. The assistant tries to hurry the other researchers out of the dining hall, but they all freeze cold in their tracks when they see her. Eda is standing right there in the hallway. She just walks past. Not a single word, looking completely dejected. It hurts to watch. When Blake tries to check on her, she just keeps on walking. He can only watch her go, clearly worried sick about her state. How she is handling everything. Later that same night, our guy is sitting in his room, thinking it all over. Then a soft knock at his door. It is Eda, standing there in her nightgown, asking if she can have a moment. He lets her in and pours a warm drink immediately, handing her the mug with a gentle, reassuring smile. As she apologizes, he drapes his cloak over her shoulders to keep the chill away, telling her she needs to stay warm. She looks down, clutching the fabric, quiet and vulnerable, thanking him for his concern, a simple act, but it cuts deep. This kindness finally seems to be getting through to her. For a moment, they just sit together in the quiet, letting all that suffocating tension finally fade away. She apologizes for dragging him into her teen's drama. But are they always like this? Eda explains that when she first joined the institute, she was full of genuine enthusiasm, but soon everyone turned. They just started calling her a genius and dumping all the work on her. Suddenly, she confesses it has always been exactly this way. Her talent makes people change. It ruins things. To explain, she starts from the very beginning back in her small village. Eda tells her story, born to a completely average family with no magic blood. But she was a prodigy from the jump, learning to speak almost immediately. She was reading complex magic books as a mere toddler. After discovering her talent, her parents were shocked and overjoyed, realizing their daughter was an absolute genius. They gave her the best magic education they could find. She dove right in, but soon things turned sour. The entire village hailed her as a once-in-a-generation prodigy. It forced her to act like a mature adult instead of the child she was. They pushed her into combat training on top of her research. Just like everyone else, she had no choice. By age 6, she was desperately trying to keep up with the pressure. She had to constantly tell herself she was a genius, anything to meet the expectations of all those adults. Back in the present, she is completely breaking down. Unable to hold it in any longer, her hands are trembling. She clutches her dress in pure distress. Blake gently puts it into words, telling her he knows she is afraid of monsters. Etta is stunned, asking how he could have possibly noticed that. He reminds her of when he saved her and when they fought the Minotaur. He flashes back to that moment in the cave, pointing out just how terrified she looked back then. She finally admits it sadly, saying he is very observant. Etta confesses she has always been scared of monsters. She only survived the hero party by staying in the back. She finally admits she is so terrified of monsters. She cannot possibly fight them alone. Blake just calmly tells her he gets it, because he is scared too. He explains that for him, fighting was the only way to survive. Until the fear just went numb, Etta wishes she could have been strong like that too. But our boy gently tells her she does not need to be anyone but herself. Now watch this, here is where it all hits home. This just makes her more upset, yelling that everyone expects her to be a strong genius. She is terrified that if she does not live up to that, she will be abandoned. Her trauma flashes back. The immense pressure from her village and mentors resurfaces. Even her own research team looks down on her. If she is not a prodigy, she is nothing to them. She is completely spiraling now, begging not to be left alone, promising to be good, right as everything starts to change. Blake rests a hand on her head, offering a gentle smile. He tells her it is going to be okay, promising that he will never ever leave her side. He truly gets how hard things have been for her. He knows deep down just how much she has suffered, looking up with tears welling in her eyes. She hears him ask if it was tough, finally giving her permission to just break down. He praises her for holding on so well despite everything. That is the final straw for her. She lets out a gut-wrenching cry, throwing herself into his arms. And finally letting it all out, she sobs, confessing that she just wants to be a normal kid, playing with friends and eating sweets. Etta admits she is terrified of monsters, wishing she could rely on others more. Blake points out that children are allowed to be vulnerable around adults. He reassures her that she does not need to be a genius or act like one. He promises she can always lean on him when she asks if that is really okay. He confirms it, pulling her close. Etta feels that warmth and thanks Blake. He gently strokes her hair, holding her hand. As she leans into him, finding comfort in his presence, Blake smiles, remembering their past, thinking it feels just like back then. He recalls a fierce battle where he fought against magical attacks. Then he zaps back to the present, finding Etta collapsed on the ground. He is in a room with 2 beds, one occupied by the sleeping girl. Blake pulls his hood up, looking concerned, and approaches her. She is fast asleep, looking completely exhausted. He gently takes her hand, watching over her. Etta rests her head on Blake's lap, finding solace. In her sleep, she cries for Blake not to leave her alone, and he reassures her that he is right there, not going anywhere. A few days later, Blake is waiting in a bustling city market for someone. Soon enough, he hears light footsteps approaching from behind. It is Etta. She asks if she kept him waiting for long. She is wearing a simple dress and a hat, looking like a normal girl for once. Blake just smiles, telling her she is right on time. As they head into the crowd, this market is absolutely alive, with people and colorful stalls, leaving Etta completely mesmerized by all the activity. He asks if this is her first time out in the city, and she admits it is. Blake just says that is great, which leaves her a little confused. He explains that first experiences are always the most fun. That simple idea makes her absolutely beam with happiness. Their first stop is a candy stall where she gets to pick out a treat. They walk through the market, enjoying their lollipops together, Etta. Then she spots a group of kids running and playing. Near a bakery, she hesitates for a second, then she just runs. She runs off to join them. Blake just watches with a warm smile, glad to see her finally getting to act like a kid. They spend the whole day exploring until the sun begins to set. Walking back, she looks more relaxed and content than ever before. She gives him a huge, heartfelt smile, clearly. The day meant the world to her, but back in the now. The streets are darkening, and her research team is hunting for her. They do not look happy. While they're walking, Etta gets completely captivated by a stall full of sparkling jewelry. The friendly shopkeeper is more than happy to show off her wares. Blake notices her staring and asks if she found something she likes, which totally catches her off guard, leaving her a bit flustered. He just gives her a gentle smile, seeing right through her hesitation. Before she can stop him, he picks out a necklace to buy for her. She tries to refuse, but our boy insists. He wants it to be a present. After he pays, the shopkeeper playfully drops the change on Edith's hat before handing the girl her brand new necklace. Etta is absolutely ecstatic, holding up her gift with a massive grin, just twirling with pure, unadulterated joy for a moment. This shopkeeper then comments on what a kind father and adorable daughter they make. That makes both of them freeze up. A moment of pure, hilarious awkwardness, but they quickly shake it off, sharing a laugh about the whole misunderstanding. They spend the rest of the day together, walking through the festival streets as the sun sets. 1 week later, they are back at the institute, standing before the entire research team. Etta starts by apologizing, admitting she failed to find a counter for the miasma, but she announces a new direction for their research, focusing on barrier mages. She then turns to Blake and formally asks for his cooperation again, and he immediately agrees. Suddenly, the team steps forward, with Limit at the front, calling out to them. This entire research team suddenly bows, sincerely apologizing for their behavior. They admit they got lazy and dumped all their responsibilities on Etta just because she is a genius. They even confess they disrespected Blake out of jealousy, trying to protect their own pride. With another deep bow, they offer a heartfelt apology to both of them. Blake just smiles it off, saying it is all right, and Etta quickly agrees. She does tell them, however, that they need to start pulling their own weight from now on, which they gratefully accept the offer, then turn to Blake, apologizing again. They finally get it now. Barrier magic is actually incredible. Etta asks what changed their minds. Limit credits our boy, explaining exactly what happened. They knew Etta was suffering because of them, but they were too cowardly, too scared to face their own helplessness. Apparently, Blake, he gave them a much-needed reality check and helped Etta smile again. That gave them the courage they needed. Limit finished by saying Blake and his barrier techniques are truly wonderful. Etta just beams, agreeing with her from the bottom of her heart. Some time later, the whole group stands outside the institute to see Blake off. He tells Etta he will keep her updated on his progress. She promises to wait for him, but just as he is about to leave, she gets his attention and whispers in his ear, asking if they can go have fun again. Our boy just gives her the warmest smile, telling her he would be happy to, anytime. This little private exchange leaves the other researchers completely baffled. With that, Blake waves goodbye. The whole team enthusiastically sees him off. As he walks away, he thinks about how long it has been since he was home, wondering how everyone is doing. Blake finally returns, only to get an earful from his 3 worried party members. He nervously tries to explain where he has been. After telling them about his mission, they are in total disbelief about him capturing monsters. This red-haired guy is stunned, thinking about how exclusive the Magic Research Institute is, while the black-haired girl cannot believe he got close to the hero's party. And the silver-haired girl is left wondering if barrier magic is really that amazing. Their collective shock has them wondering just who on earth this guy really is. Blake then asks how their training has been, and the red-haired guy looks absolutely thrilled. He proudly announces that tomorrow he will show off the results. The next day, at the training grounds, the trio is unleashing some flashy elemental magic. They combine their powers into a massive blast. Blake watches from the sidelines with a calm, observant expression, but the red-haired kid is frustrated with the result, feeling like he is not getting stronger fast enough just in time for some classic bullies to show up and mock them. This red-haired kid is absolutely fuming at their taunts, but the girls just look defeated, accepting that they are always in last place. That just makes him even angrier. He starts shouting at them, why quit now? Why rely on that old man? The girl with the black hair gets flustered, trying to deny it. But he has had enough. He turns away, completely fed up. He declares he will not give up, his voice ringing with conviction. He stomps his foot, a move that shows just how determined he is. The girls rush to calm him, the dark-haired one especially worried. Terry's is clearly stressed, but Blake just watches the whole thing. He stares at this dramatic scene unfold with a totally deadpan face. He looks completely lost, wondering what on earth his students are doing. Then, out of nowhere, the red-haired kid drops down. He hits the floor in a full bow, desperate, right in front of him. He begs Blake to teach him magic. He needs power to avoid getting fired. Blake kneels, asking why he is taking things to such a crazy extreme. The kid explains he is the eldest son of a rural noble family. They're only mage, and since they are so poor, the stakes are high. He needs to succeed to make life better for everyone back home. Our boy says he understands, but reminds him of his own limitation. He only knows barrier techniques. That is his only specialty. The kid's face falls for a second, looking totally crushed. But then, he gets an idea. Blake offers to teach him combat instead. The boy accepts immediately, excited to finally start training. With practice set for tomorrow, the kid bows again, thanking him. But the next day, he is shocked to see the two girls waiting. Terry's declares they will not let him have the old man all to himself. It is a funny moment. You can see exactly how this training session is going to go. He is not getting any special treatment today. Blake just smiles, explaining he invited them along too. He knew they felt the same way. The red-haired kid just groans. All that begging he did for nothing, and now he has company. Meanwhile, the silver-haired girl decides to watch Blake like a hawk. She wants to uncover his secrets, getting way too close. She analyzes him, her eyes intense, trying to read his every move. He just turns, giving her a gentle, knowing smile. Then he pats her on the head, completely shattering her serious mood. Blake starts telling his story, opening up about his past. He explains how he was taken to the demon realm as a small child. It was a pretty bleak, desolate place to be dumped into. He and the other kids were forced to create barriers. They had to suppress the miasma and monsters with almost no food. No pay, no help. They were just abandoned to their own fate. He was left all alone in that hostile land with one small bag. His mission was brutal. He had to keep a massive barrier going. It trapped him in one spot, day after day, year after year. The kid barely slept, pouring every ounce of energy into the spell. As his food finally ran out, he was pushed to his absolute limit, pushed to his absolute physical and mental limits. That is when he comes up with an idea, a magic circle that would maintain the barrier automatically. The trio is honestly freaking out since developing new magic circles like this is basically considered impossible. Blake just casually tells them he pulled it off. It completely blows the red-haired kid's mind. In just a few days, young Blake had developed a brand new, self-sustaining magic circle, leaving him completely drained but successful. After finally activating it, He gets to sleep properly for the first time in ages. A few days later, he pays a passing merchant to share his new technique with the other abandoned barrier mages. But with that problem solved, he now has to figure out food and shelter. His first attempt at foraging ends with him running for his life from a massive monster. For a while, he survives on the meager rations that are delivered every few months. Eventually, though, even those supply drops stop coming completely. With no other options left, he is forced to venture back into that monster-infested forest. So young, Blake is forced to forage in a woods crawling with monsters, which means constantly running for his life from some seriously nasty creatures. His only option is to throw up a desperate barrier to stay alive, which thankfully is just strong enough to block their attacks, but it leaves him completely drained every single time, and all that risk is for a pathetic handful of mushrooms and plants. Plus, the dense miasma means he has to constantly purify himself just to breathe. He decides that just defending isn't enough. He needs to get stronger, throwing himself into researching new ways to use his barrier techniques. After some intense training, he manages to strengthen them significantly, letting him trap monsters for short periods to gather resources safely. That is how he survives for the next 3 years. Now at age 12, he encounters even bigger threats like giant snakes, but his refined techniques can now easily trap them in a box, restraining them for several minutes. While he goes about his business, this allows him to finally gather a decent amount of food without any trouble. And while his magic power is growing, he still has no way to actually defeat monsters, since his barriers are completely stationary and cannot be used for attacks. After years of effort, he finally figures out how to move them. By age 15, he can freely control his barriers at will. He calls this his offensive. His barrier technique finally shifts, turning his raw defense into a weapon. With that, he finally gets to eat some real meat. For the first time in ages, it tastes absolutely incredible. He purified all that nasty miasma out of it, of course. This breakthrough pushes him to research his barrier magic even further. He experiments with shape and hardness until he can actually use them, using them for high-speed movement, eventually mastering new properties like softness and viscosity, letting him create whatever he needs. Back in the present, he tells the trio this is how his combat style evolved, explaining that after fighting monsters every single day just to survive, he could now casually block a massive fire blast with one hand. His students can only watch with their jaws on the floor, speechless. Now watch this. Blake launches himself into the air, ready to counter. He gathers a ridiculous amount of energy into the palm of his hand, unleashing a concentrated barrier strike that tears right through the monster. He lands without a single scratch, casually telling them his capabilities. The trio is losing their minds, realizing he just one-shot that salamander like it was nothing at all. Our boy just turns to them with a deadpan look, like it is no big deal. They finally understand why his insane background makes him so overpowered. Blake just gives them a slightly confused smile, not getting their reaction. He cheerfully suggests they can reach his level with the same training. The girls think he is a completely insensitive and oblivious old man. That red-haired kid gets all fired up, declaring they have no choice. They have to get as strong as Blake. Blake just smiles, thinking their timing is perfect. He points out a two-headed monster as their next training opponent. The trio collectively loses their minds, absolutely terrified by the suggestion. They immediately nope out of there, screaming as they run for their lives. The scene shifts to a different red-haired guy, a captain. He walks down a fancy hall with his squad nearby. A couple of old officials shower him with praise for his skill, introducing him as Lord Lancelot, who looks completely unimpressed by the hype. He humbly brushes off the compliments, which only makes them praise more. Lancelot just walks right past them, ignoring their continued flattery. Even his own subordinates think he is amazing. Though they admit the bureaucrats are laying it on way too thick. They tell him not to be so modest, but he just insists they are overestimating. Lancelot looks completely unimpressed by all the surrounding hype. He humbly brushes off the compliments, which only makes them praise him more. So Lancelot just walks right past them, ignoring the continued flattery. Even his own subordinates think he is amazing to watch. Though they admit the bureaucrats are laying it on way too thick. They tell him not to be so modest, but he just shakes it off. He insists they are overestimating his skill. He does not care. He thinks he's nothing special, just a guy with a bit more talent than most. But lately, his magic feels stuck, just completely flat. And honestly, he doesn't even have a goal to chase anymore. Which is a real shame, considering the raw power he's holding back. He can unleash massive fire magic like it's absolutely nothing. With the Demon King gone, the Royal Magician Corps is just keeping the peace. Peace is great and all, but he's drowning in everyone's expectations. It's that constant weight on his shoulders he's mulling over in his office. Then a subordinate walks in with a report, low-level monsters spotted. Perfect timing for a training op for the new recruits. Lancelot studies the report, weighing his options on who to send. Meanwhile, that red-haired kid is having a full-blown panic attack. The girls are trying to play it cool, telling themselves it's no big deal. Then there's the silver-haired kid, so chill he's literally offering snacks. That only makes the redhead even more frantic. He's spiraling. Turns out the whole squad is shipping out with the first division. That doesn't faze the silver-haired kid at all. He's clearly a pro at this. The trio tries to pump themselves up, remembering their training with Blake. They should be stronger now, right? At least, that's what they hope. But some other recruits start mocking them, calling them dropouts. That gets our red-haired guy fired up, ready to lose it. Before he can snap, an officer yells for everyone to fall in line. The whole group instantly freezes, snapping into perfect formation. Lancelot strides forward to address the new recruits. Pay attention, this is where the mission really takes shape. He lays out the details, a 2-week hunt for low-level monsters. The whole corps roars back aloud, yes sir, our trio right in the mix. With the order given, the expedition officially kicks off. The massive group marches out at the city gates in perfect rhythm. Their journey takes them straight through a barren, rocky canyon. After 6 hours of non-stop trekking, our trio looks completely wiped out. They aren't the only ones, though. Everyone's struggling with the steep terrain. Finally, an officer calls for a much-needed 30-minute break. Everyone just collapses on the spot, desperate for a moment of rest. But out of nowhere, another officer shows up, yelling at them to move. Turns out, that break was never meant for the trainees. The officer orders them to start tending to the senior squad members. Now our red-haired kid is stuck on massage duty for some smug senior. It's a brutal start, and honestly, the hazing is just getting started. He collapses in exhaustion, just glad for the chance to rest. But another officer suddenly appears, yelling at them to move. Turns out, the break is not for them. No rest allowed. The officer orders the trainees to tend to the senior squad members, which means our red-haired kid is immediately back in the dirt, forced onto massage duty for some smug senior. Talk about hazing. The grind continues through the day and deep into the night, with Lancelot holding watch while the recruits are dead to the world. 7 days later, our trio looks absolutely shredded. Running on nothing but fumes and pure desperation, the red-haired kid is having a full-blown mental breakdown. He's convinced he's going to keel over from exhaustion. The dark-haired girl is right at her breaking point, too. And the silver-haired girl, she's just fighting to stay awake while standing up. Blake, on the other hand, is looking perfectly fine. He's cheerfully offering them water like they're on some kind of spa vacation. He casually explains this is nothing compared to his past, flashing back to his monster-slaying days. These kids can only accept that their teacher is just built on a different level. That's when the red-haired kid realizes the other trainees are gone. Blake confirms the truth. They all deserted. Suddenly, a couple of seniors stroll up, sarcastically congratulating them for lasting longer than the rest. Their attention quickly shifts to Blake, sneering about him being just an old guy who got in on a recommendation. They start openly mocking his age, wondering how a simple barrier mage ever cracked the core. The trio immediately leaps to his defense, shouting that Blake is way stronger than they could ever imagine. That really ticks off the seniors. They decide these brats need to be taught some respect. Just as things are about to escalate, Captain Lancelot appears, demanding to know what's going on. The bullies instantly freeze, stammering that it's nothing before making a very hasty retreat. Lancelot gives the group a stern warning not to cause trouble. Blake just thanks him for stepping in. Lancelot sizes up the old man, wondering if Blake is secretly hiding his true strength. After a brutal 14-day march, the expedition finally arrives at a damaged village. The village chief explains that monsters have been attacking. They're terrified they'll be next, so he begs Lancelot to defeat the creatures. He claims he knows exactly where they're hiding. But the captain isn't buying it for a second. Now watch this, something is seriously off about this guy. While he's thinking, our trio of recruits is completely wiped out from the journey. Blake, however, strolls back in looking like he just got back from a relaxing spa day. An officer then calls all the squad leaders together for a strategy meeting. That's when it hits Lancelot. The village chief is definitely lying. He explains he saw burned houses, but no young women anywhere. He's deduced they've been taken hostage. You can see it in their faces. His subordinates are completely amazed by his insight. For a split second, he senses something is seriously wrong here. The senior assumes our trio of recruits is completely wiped out from the grueling journey, but Blake strolls back in looking fresh. As if he just got back from a spa day, an officer calls all the squad leaders together for an urgent strategy meeting. That is when it hits Lancelot. The village chief is lying. He explains that he saw burned houses near the perimeter, but no young women, deducing they have been taken hostage. His subordinates are completely amazed by his sharp intuition. Lancelot shares his brilliant insight and lays out the ambush. They catch the monsters when they inevitably make their move. Attack at night. The squad leaders fall in line immediately. They'd never dare question their captain's flawless judgment. Lancelot accepts their blind confidence, but deep down, he's quiet. Still mulling over the plan, he watches his team closely. He readies the final command, but then Blake raises his hand, asking if he can speak up. The other leaders tense. They jump on him, telling the rookie to shut up. Know your place, they sneer, but Lancelot steps in fast. That is enough. He says, back off, all of you. It doesn't matter if Blake is new, he wants his input. Blake speaks up. Their current plan won't save the hostages. He suggests they need a much more offensive approach now. Lancelot points out they don't even know the enemy's location. Blake confirms they won't be searching before nightfall starts. The other leaders protest, claiming a search is impossible. So little time, they argue, but Blake just smiles. He says they can easily find them using his barrier technique. The others look confused, so he breaks it down for them. It's a barrier that detects targets within a certain area. Magic turns into particles, mapping the shape and movement. Anything they touch gets revealed in real time. It detects anything with a physical form, not just living things. Of course, those arrogant leaders immediately call him a liar. They insist barrier magic cannot possibly do that. Blake just closes his eyes to give them a demonstration. He casually describes the guy behind him yawning and stretching, then points out the other one casually drinking some water. They lose it, accusing him of cheating, but Lancelot saw enough. He officially assigns Blake's squad the mission to rescue them. The lair is the target, find it, save the hostages. Other leaders are still complaining, but Lancelot holds firm. Better to give the rookies a long shot than nothing. Decision made, he gives the order to move out now. Squad scramble, getting ready for the big night operation. Soon enough, Blake and his trio trek through the forest. Dark, quiet, and dangerous. But look, this red-haired kid is pumped, thinking Lancelot is making a seriously bold, epic move. The girls are more realistic, guessing the captain expects failure. Blake just confirms he can track the monsters easily enough. Range is limited, so they have to keep moving fast. His students are in awe. Seriously, just look at them. The silver-haired girl admits she isn't even surprised anymore. His skills are just too broken at this point. Just look at the teacher. His barrier techniques are absolutely incredible. The silver-haired girl realizes something new while she is near him. Being around Blake makes her heart race. She is genuinely excited. Back in the village, the ambush is set. Everyone is waiting. The squad waits for the monsters. A few of them are out. Some squad members are passed out in wagons, totally unaware of danger. Others are resting inside the village houses to keep their guard up. Lancelot is there too, pretending to sleep, but he is wide awake. Suddenly, a lizardman creeps into his room, looking for a snack. The monster thinks it found an easy target. It is not alone. A whole squad of them surrounds the bed, ready to finish him. They all lunge at once, going for the kill, but Lancelot reacts. With a flick of his wrist, he blasts one right through the window. He is not even breaking a sweat. It is just too easy. These low-level lizardmen are seriously underestimating him. Big mistake. Outside, the rest of the squad springs the trap on the enemy. Explosions light up the night. His men are having a field day. They are mocking the monsters, easily wiping them out without a hitch. But just as they get cocky, they freeze in absolute terror. Something new is approaching, a whole squad of level for orcs. They just crashed the party, and they look way tougher than before. One raises a massive club, ready to smash the mages into paste. He brings it down on the guy who was just bragging earlier. Both of them are completely overwhelmed, looking totally helpless on the ground. The orcs close in, but before they can land the final blow, a massive fireball erupts, incinerating the lead orc in an instant. It is Captain Lancelot. He just saved their butts without even trying. He looks around, a little confused, wondering where the other monsters are. His subordinates are just thankful to be alive after that close call. Then one of them points out toward the dark, distant woods. Their faces go pale. They are pointing at a massive level 6 orc lord. The whole squad is shaking. This monster is way out of their league. One guy starts freaking out, knowing they cannot handle that kind of power. But Lancelot, he is completely unfazed by the giant beast. He tells his men not to worry. He has got this. He casually deflects a projectile before charging up a massive fire spell. Wine swirls around him. He looks absolutely determined to end this fight. He prepares to unleash everything he has on the entire monster army. The resulting attack is a ridiculous beam of pure magical energy. It completely engulfs the Orc Lord and every single one of its minions. Everything erupts into a colossal explosion that lights up the whole forest. When the smoke finally clears, the scene is completely changed. There is absolutely nothing left but a massive, smoldering crater. Lancelot lands softly, without a single hair out of place. Honestly, seeing him handle that level 6 threat was just unreal. Acting like it is just another Tuesday, his men are going absolutely wild, cheering for their captain like he just won the championship. Lancelot, however, realizes something is off. These monsters were too organized. For a simple orc lord, he suddenly looks up, sensing a new, much more dangerous presence has arrived. Meanwhile, Blake and his squad have successfully located the monster's lair inside a dark cave. They find all the missing village women, tied up and terrified. This silver-haired girl immediately starts comforting the hostages, telling them they are safe now, but Blake's eyes narrow as he senses the real threat is somewhere else entirely. He tells his students to handle the rescue and just bolts, leaving them totally confused. Back outside, Lancelot is confronted by a mysterious voice asking him what is wrong. as a new, even bigger monster named Barbarossa appears, taunting him. For being powerless, Lancelot's men are panicking over the monster's insane level. Barbarossa taunts him, bringing down a massive axe with crushing force. Lancelot realizes he is low on mana and only has one big spell left. His men are still shouting their support, completely unaware he is in trouble. With his reputation on the line, Lancelot declares he is invincible and meets the attack head-on, unleashing his final spell in a desperate clash of power, creating a massive explosion that rocks the entire area. His men can only scream his name in terror, thinking he has been defeated, as Barbarossa stands over the fallen captain, ready to finish him off. But just as the axe is about to land, it is blocked by a sudden barrier, leaving the monster completely stunned. He cannot believe his attack was just stopped cold because Blake just showed up, casually saying he made it in time. His barrier is effortlessly holding back the monster's full power swing, saving the captain. This has Lancelot's men completely losing their minds, wondering what is going on, and Blake just turns to the injured Lancelot, casually offering to heal him. His hands begin to glow with a gentle blue light, this healing energy surrounding Lancelot, who looks on in disbelief, wondering if this is holy magic, since he thought Blake was just a barrier specialist. But Blake explains this is also a barrier technique, one that stimulates the body's regeneration. Barbarossa is absolutely livid that they are just chatting while he is standing right there. So he brings his axe down again, trying to shatter the barrier with pure rage. Lancelot asks Blake if they can actually win this, and Blake confirms it is possible. Even with high-level magic, the captain admits the truth. He needs time to charge his spell and a clear opening to land it. Blake immediately volunteers to create that opening for him. Lancelot worries just defending will make the monster suspicious, but our boy just smirks. He is not going to defend. He is going to fight. This has Lancelot completely baffled, wondering how you can possibly attack using only defensive magic. Blake just puts his hands together, gathering a massive amount of blue energy before channeling it all down into his leg. Getting into a low stance, he looks like a sprinter at the starting line, ready to absolutely launch himself forward. And with a sudden burst of power, he explodes off the ground. In a swirl of magic, this guy moves so fast he is just a blue streak, heading straight for the monster, forming a pointed barrier around himself, like a human battering ram. Barbarossa cannot even believe what he is seeing, looking totally caught off guard, as Blake slams directly into his chest with the full force of his barrier. This impact sends the giant monster stumbling back, roaring from the hit, which has Lancelot's men freaking out that he actually knocked the beast down. Barbarossa gets back up, absolutely furious, calling Blake a cocky little ant, raising his axe for another devastating swing, as Blake prepares a counter and unleashes a massive barrier blade, meeting the attack head-on. Blake gives Lancelot the signal he was waiting for, and the captain immediately starts charging up his ultimate spell. His men are going wild, recognizing this is his signature high-level magic, which he unleashes in a massive beam right at the monster. Barbarossa gets completely engulfed by the attack, looking totally stunned as the vortex of pure energy tears through the battlefield. When the dust finally settles, the monster is on its knees, looking seriously messed up, which has Lancelot's squad celebrating like they have already won the whole war. The captain is completely drained, barely able to stay on his feet, and he starts to collapse from total mana exhaustion. Before he can hit the ground, Blake catches him, holding up the exhausted captain who just gave it his all. Our boy even gives him a compliment, saying that was some amazing magic. And Lancelot actually returns the praise, admitting Blake was impressive too. Meanwhile, the squad is still cheering for their invincible captain, until one of them starts accusing Blake of just trying to steal the glory. Lancelot immediately shuts him down, admitting he would have lost without Blake's help. Blake just plays it cool. Maybe the captain could have handled it alone, he jokes. Still, you have to wonder, is this kid really just getting started? Alone, it catches Lancelot completely off guard. But our boy explains that even the great Captain Lancelot is just human, not perfect. Blake says comrades should support each other because even the strongest are still only human. That sets the guy off. He grabs Blake's collar and accuses him of mocking the captain, but our boy just calmly grabs his wrist, completely unfazed by the aggression. He says he knows what it is like to fight all alone and how much better things are with allies by your side. Lancelot overhears all this, looking pretty shocked. To hear someone say he is not perfect, the subordinate just yanks his hand away, clearly not wanting to hear any more. He storms off in a huff, leaving his buddy behind. To deal with the awkward silence, Lancelot gives Blake a final look before his own student, the redhead, shows up later on. Blake's squad waves goodbye to the rescued villagers. The mission is finally complete. Everyone is safely reunited. The village chief even apologizes for his part in the mess. He and the other men bow deeply to the students, showing their gratitude and remorse. But even though the battle is over, the mystery of the monster Barbarossa still looms large. That is the last thing on the redhead's mind as he celebrates being back home. His teammates, however, are completely wiped out from the whole ordeal. Just as they are about to part ways, Blake asks the red-haired student for a moment. It leads him toward a local tavern for a chat. Turns out, Blake invited him for a meal. The student seems genuinely happy about it, admitting it is the first time anyone has ever invited him out like this. The student replies that it is the same for him. That confuses Blake for a second, because it is also the first time he has ever been the one to invite someone. Blake just smiles, realizing they are both first-timers when it comes to making friends. The red-haired student agrees, finding some unexpected common ground since they are off-duty. He tells Blake to drop the formalities and use his name. The student proposes they make a toast to their newfound understanding. Blake raises his mug, toasting to two of a kind, but the student corrects him, saying, "It is a toast to imperfect people," and with that, they clink their mugs together in a moment of genuine camaraderie. You know, these two actually seem to be having a great time just chatting over drinks, which is a pretty big turnaround from the guy wanting to fight Blake. Earlier, he even cracks a genuine, heartfelt smile, looking completely at ease. The next day, we are back in the main. The city is quiet today, peaceful for once as Blake stretches out, just enjoying a rare, well-deserved day off. He decides to stroll through town, since he hasn't had much time to relax lately. All the wild, crazy stuff that has happened since he arrived keeps hitting him. He can't help but remember that he owes his entire second chance at life to one person, the hero Alice. And just as he's thinking about her, a mysterious figure in a blue cloak brushes past. Blake makes a split-second call. He needs to find her, catch up, and finally thank her properly. Then, out of nowhere, that same cloaked person slams right into him. She starts apologizing immediately, looking totally flustered by the mistake. Blake asks if she is all right, but as he gets a good look at her, he realizes exactly who is standing there. Before she can even react, Blake grabs her arm and pulls her off the main street. "Move," he tells her. "Just follow my lead." A couple of knights are scouting the area for her, but they have already lost the trail. Blake ducks them both into a nearby alley to stay out of sight. Once the coast is clear, the tension finally breaks. The cloaked girl lets out a huge sigh of relief, apologizing for dragging him into her mess. She has these persistent pursuers on her tail. After all, Blake just smiles, confirming he knew it was her the entire time. As she pulls down her hood, the secret is out. It is the hero Alice herself. She gives him a cheerful wave, saying she has heard all about his recent accomplishments. But Blake is more concerned about why the hero of all people is being hunted by knights. Alice gets this hilariously proud look on her face. She declares that she is simply running away from work. Apparently, being the hero involves endless meetings and a mountain of paperwork. Blake thinks that sounds tough, but she insists it is so much worse. She is having a complete meltdown over the sheer, murderous workload. So she just decided to ditch her royal duties and make a run for it. Our guy just looks at her, thinking she seriously needs a change of pace. He gets her attention, calling out her name. He asks if she wants to hang out, which seems to catch her completely off guard. He explains that he really needs to thank her for giving him this new life. Alice is totally stunned by the offer. She starts blushing like crazy, clearly not expecting that. Then she gets super excited and immediately agrees to spend the day together. Blake finds himself being led to a beautiful, secluded spot just outside the city walls. Alice reveals this is her secret favorite place to hide from the world. He feels a little guilty for intruding on her private space, but she just winks and tells him that he is someone special. Then she reaches into her bag for something she prepared earlier. She pulls out a little something to share, and for the first time, the weight of the world seems to just fall away. Honestly, it is the most relaxed he has seen her all day. With a huge, proud smile, she hands him a couple of packed lunch boxes. She's made a seriously impressive-looking sandwich just for him. They settle down to enjoy their little picnic together under the sun. Blake notices she packed too, which leaves her feeling totally flustered. She tells him to just eat, and he doesn't need to be told twice. Our boy digs right in, and he is completely blown away by the taste. He tells her she's a great cook, and she admits that for a hero, she is. Surprisingly domestic, she laughs off the compliment. Blake reassures her that he doesn't think it's weird at all. That seems to make her comfortable enough to open up. She starts to tell him about her life before she became the hero. Turns out, she was just a normal girl in a rundown, quiet village. With no special powers to speak of, she only had a real knack for housework. But then, one day, she received a sudden divine revelation. It came from the goddess Istria, choosing her for a greater path. From that moment on, she was officially chosen to become the hero. She explains that the revelation led to some seriously intense training. Pushing herself to the absolute limit, she fought to handle her new role. Alice had never even held a sword before, so the work was brutal. Blake just listens intently, taking in every single part of her backstory. She proudly declares that she was a natural, getting strong super fast. Because she actually enjoyed it, she adds with a huge, bright grin. She must just have a natural talent for it, she laughs. Our boy agrees. You would have to be gifted to reach her level. She admits the journey was still incredibly hard with so few companions. Despite all that, she pushed through and eventually defeated the Demon King. It makes her happy, knowing now everyone can finally live in peace. Still, she can't escape the fact that she is the hero. That weight seems to hang over her. But pay close attention here. Blake suddenly gets to his feet, catching her completely by surprise. He turns away, saying he is just an old barrier mage. Left behind by the times, he feels like a relic of the past. Alice is totally confused by his sudden, self-deprecating turn. But he tells her that even someone like him has his own beliefs. He realizes, in that moment, he truly wants to protect Alice. He explains that just like he protected humanity, he now wants to protect her. That makes her tear up, asking why he would say that. She is the strongest human alive. Why protect her? Our boy just tells her that her title as the hero doesn't matter to him. To him, she is simply a kind, hardworking, and wonderful person. Alice is completely floored by his words, finally admitting. She asks what he'd say when she is the strongest human alive. Our boy just tells her that her title means nothing to him. Because to him, she is simply a kind, hardworking, wonderful person. Alice is completely floored by his words, admitting her shock. He says some really kind things, but she quickly masks it. Putting on a brave face, she thanks him, insisting she is okay now. Blake just watches her, seeming to understand the weight she carries. Back in the city, they decide to part ways for the day. Alice thanks him for everything before they head off on their own. He waves her off, saying he is looking forward to hanging out again. But the second she leaves, his expression hardens. He spots something down the street, that arrogant blonde noble from before. The guy is cornering a few people in a dark alleyway. An incredibly dark aura radiates off him. Pure murderous intent, it looks like he is about to snap. We cut to that same noble in a fancy office, looking stunned. An older official just dropped some terrible news on him. He is being transferred to the remote Mabel region. And as the text on screen notes, it is a massive demotion. He immediately loses it, grabbing the official by the collar. He screams, demanding to know what the old man is thinking. The official calmly lists off his crimes one by one, from abusing his authority to causing chaos in the training unit. The official has had enough, telling the kid he has reached his limit. Blondie tries to pull rank, screaming he is a powerful noble and mage. But the official just slaps his hand away, cutting all ties. Now watch this. The moment his entire world starts to crumble, the kid goes into a rage, accusing the man of betrayal. After everything he has been given, he thinks this is how he is treated. The official just calls him a fool, admitting that siding with him was a mistake. With that, he turns his back on the disgraced noble. He tells him to go start his life over in the borderlands. The noble desperately reaches out as the heavy doors begin to close. His cushy life is officially over. The blonde noble loses his mind, throwing a tantrum in the hallway. It is a pathetic sight. He forced to take a walk of shame past other whispering nobles. They are all talking about how he totally deserved this demotion. He cannot take the mockery and screams for everyone to shut up. He unleashes a massive fire spell right in the middle of the hall. We cut to him getting kicked out of the military barracks for good. Another official points right at him and declares he is fired. That news sends the noble into a total downward spiral. He tries to pull the high-ranking card again, but it is over. This official is having none of it, shutting him down cold. He tells him he is lucky he is not being thrown straight into jail. Now he is left on his knees in the street with his stuff everywhere. Just to add insult to injury, they slam the gates shut in his face, leaving him to stew in his public disgrace all alone. Humiliation washes over him as everyone walks past, but he refuses to reflect. Instead, that anger just starts to fester into something else entirely. He gets this deranged look, convinced the hero Alice would actually appreciate him. Turns out he has been obsessed with her since the very first moment. Apparently, his entire career goal was just to get close to her. He genuinely believed she would fall for his charms, which is just hilarious. Then he remembers seeing her happily running off somewhere, only to find her with Blake, immediately deciding our boy is the source of all his problems. This dude is completely unhinged, blaming Blake for every single one of his failures. So he throws on a cloak and starts frantically searching the city for Alice, pushing his way through crowds, getting more desperate by the second. After a while, he is looking pretty worn out from his obsessive hunt, until he finally spots her laughing and talking with Blake from around a corner. His whole demeanor changes into this creepy, possessive grin at the sight of her. But that smile immediately vanishes when he registers who she is with. Just like that, his entire world comes crashing down around him. Blake just has this calm, friendly smile on his face, completely unaware that he is being stalked by a psycho from the shadows. This noble just cannot process why she would choose some old mage over him, imagining a world where he is the one standing there talking to her. Instead, his mind completely shatters into pieces from the jealousy, flashing to a full-blown delusion of him and Alice at their wedding. Back in reality, our boy and Alice are just casually waving goodbye for the day, which sends the noble into a murderous rage. His mind is just screaming for Blake's end. A twisted smile forms as he decides on his new plan. Take out Blake and claim Alice, ranting that she was always meant to be his from the very beginning. Now watch this. The scene shifts to a bright, sunny day somewhere else. We see a trio of mages in uniform being ordered to line up for duty. A massive assembly of mages is gathered in a grand hall, all standing at attention for a big announcement. Among them is a group of trainees totally overwhelmed by the sheer number of mages. Their commander announces the mission is to guard VIPs in the city, specifically for the upcoming Demon King subjugation ceremony. Another official steps up, ready to announce the assignments for each unit. He starts reading from a list. First, announcing the unit assigned to the main gate. While the rest wait in tense silence, you can feel the nerves in the room. Every unit is waiting to hear where they are headed. The official clears his throat, preparing to call the next names. Everyone holds their breath, waiting for the mission details. The trainees all whisper, thinking they'll land some easy gig like the castle gate, since they're just rookies. Then the announcer drones on to the next assignment, the escort detail. It's for Lady Hero and her party, the orange-haired trainee. Assumes some elite unit will handle that, resigning himself to a boring patrol. But then the official just wraps things up, saying that is the end of the list. The orange-haired kid is totally confused, wondering if he missed something massive. Suddenly the entire hall of mages turns to stare directly at a small group of friends. They start to panic, having absolutely no idea why they are the center of attention. This white-haired girl is the first to put it together, her expression darkening as she realizes the truth. Her friends are still completely lost, not understanding what she means at all until she spells it out for them. They are the ones assigned to escort the hero's party. This realization hits the whole group like a truck, and they collectively lose their minds. All around them, the other mages start whispering, clearly shocked by the assignment too, with a couple of them voicing their disbelief, saying there has to be some kind of mistake. But the commander cuts in, revealing it was a direct recommendation from both himself and Lady Hero. He explains their performance during the recent monster attack was impressive enough to earn the spot. This trainee's leader recalls Blake's impressive record, including defeating a lord and earning the hero's trust, and his friends agree Blake was definitely strong enough to fight alongside their captain. With the assignment settled, their commander declares the decision is final, and the entire assembly of mages roars in agreement. Later, the trainee squad makes their way through the palace, completely overwhelmed by the situation. They arrive at a ridiculously fancy door, realizing it is the entrance to the hero's personal room. Our orange-haired friend is so nervous he feels like he is about to lose his lunch. But the girls in his squad tell him to pull himself together. He immediately calls them out, pointing out their own legs are shaking like crazy, which leaves them totally speechless and flustered. Taking a deep breath, the squad leader decides they just have to go in and face the music. And as the doors swing open, they are greeted by Alice and Etta, who have been waiting for them. These trainees are completely starstruck, finally meeting the legendary hero and her companion in person, and the girls are just blown away by how gorgeous. They're honestly feeling like actual goddesses right now. Their leader steps forward to formally greet them while the rest of his team is still losing their minds behind him. Alice gives them a huge smile, praising them for their excellent work during the monster attack. But then Etta chimes in with a wink, adding, as expected of Blake, this throws the squad for a loop as they realize the hero's party is actually close with Blake. The scene shifts to them all sitting down for a meeting with the trainees on one side. They look absolutely terrified, just sitting stiff as boards. Across from the two legends, Alice and Etta try to break the ice, telling the trainees not to be so nervous. But the squad is still on edge, feeling the immense pressure of the situation. These heroes' personal nights standing behind them are not helping. They look seriously intimidating. So Blake steps in calmly, stating that it seems Alice recommended them for the job. She confirms it with a huge smile, saying she knows their abilities well and has full confidence in them. This praise totally catches the trainees off guard, and they are just flattered by her words. The white-haired girl realizes that if the hero's party acknowledges Blake, he is no ordinary person. The orange-haired kid is floored, thinking he completely underestimated how amazing Blake is. They are all in shock, never imagining their old man had connections this powerful. Blake, of course, just sits there, looking completely unfazed by the whole thing. But then, one of the knights leans over to Alice, wanting to offer a suggestion. He immediately questions the skill of the other three trainees, calling them out. He says they lack the aura of strong individuals, basically calling them weak rookies, suggesting it would be far better to replace them with more experienced magicians. Blake clenches his fist, knowing the knight isn't entirely wrong about their inexperience. It completely crushed the trainees' confidence, making them feel useless. This white-haired girl is not about to take that sitting down, though, her expression hardening, and Blake gives a slight smile. Seeing the fire ignite in his students, she stands up and respectfully asks that they be allowed to undertake the mission before the rest of the squad jumps up, shouting that they can do it too. This knight smirks, deciding to test their skills right then and there. So he steps out into the middle of the hall, ready for a 3-on-1 fight. He lays out the rules. If they can land a single attack on him, they win. And to make it fair, he declares he will not even use magic, which is a massive handicap. This blatant disrespect is completely insane. It sets the trainees off, and they aren't having any of it. They immediately launch a full-power, coordinated magic assault right at him, but in the very next instant, all three of them are on the floor, completely defeated. The orange-haired kid is left absolutely stunned by what just happened. He flashes back to the fight, realizing the truth. That knight dodged every single one of their spells. Then he reveals he was trained by someone named Lady Walburga, so he would never lose to mages. We see two others. Other members of the hero's party have been watching this whole time. The silver-haired one is introduced as the vanguard of the party. Turns out, this Walburga is the legendary sword saint, a master of the blade, and apparently an expert at fighting magicians, meaning the kids never stood a chance. The knight looks down on the defeated trainees, cold. He says he cannot trust the mission to weaklings, but their leader isn't giving up, asking how long until the ceremony. 3 weeks. He challenges the knight right there, asking if he will accept them if they get stronger by then. The knight actually agrees, promising to reevaluate them 3 days before. With a new goal set, the squad leader turns to his team, seeing if they are truly up for the challenge. They all roar back with renewed determination, vowing to pass his test no matter what. Alice and Etta, they see the squad off, wishing them good luck with the training. The 3 trainees are totally fired up, ready to prove themselves. The knight who tested them watches from afar, still skeptical they can actually improve in just 3 weeks. But that doesn't stop the kids from vowing to conquer whatever Blake throws. We cut to the Mecha Forest, where special training is about to begin. And by training, I mean they are immediately running for their lives, escaping a pack of monsters while Blake just floats above them, casually perched on a magic platform, telling them to try harder. He yells down that they won't get stronger just by running away. Now watch this. Here is where the kid finally snaps. Completely fed up with the whole ordeal, he finally turns and unleashes a massive fire spell, straight at the monster chasing them, dead on target. It connects in a huge explosion, seemingly taking the beast down, but a powerful wind blade slices right through the flames. Without even slowing down, this attack barely misses him. He is left stunned by how close the call was. Then a much bigger, scarier dragon-like monster emerges from the smoke. Looking absolutely furious, the trainees realize they are in trouble. Their magic barely scratches the beast and panic starts to set in. Blake just tells them they have to figure it out themselves. No hand-holding here, the training has to actually mean something. Right then, the dragon monster lunges for our orange-haired friend. Before it can land a hit, a massive lightning barrier erupts. It slams into those jaws, revealing Blake standing firm. He promises to step in only when things get truly dangerous. Then he unleashes a massive ice spell, pushing them to keep fighting. They need to hit their limits right now, he tells them. The squad is fired up, but the orange-haired kid is totally lost. How do they actually get stronger? Then the white-haired girl remembers. She recalls a key piece of advice from Blake earlier. He told them he could not train their specific magic types. Since his specialty is barrier magic, he could not help much. They already know the fundamentals, so they were left on their own. They are stumped, wondering what the next move is until it clicks. He told them to play the cards they were already dealt. He wanted them to focus on their own unique strengths. It finally makes sense. Stop chasing the spells. They immediately start enhancing their individual abilities instead. The white-haired girl uses her wind magic to dodge a monster. She weaves through the attack with total ease. Meanwhile, the orange-haired kid counters with a massive concentrated fire blast. Just as he starts celebrating, the black-haired girl yells a warning. She tells him not to get distracted before she unleashes a huge volley of dark magic. That dark magic takes down another beast in one go. After their first successful coordinated takedown, the team is ecstatic. Blake watches from a distance, noting their teamwork is multiplying power. If they can master that synergy, they will become unstoppable. Day 2 starts with brutal physical conditioning to build their stamina. Day 3 is all about combat sense and reading movements. He drills them on understanding their own limits. They keep fighting as one unit, and the days fly by. It is just a blur of intense training and leveling up. Now look, with 3 days left, the knight announces the re-examination. The trainees step up, absolutely convinced they are going to win. But the knight just scoffs at their excessive confidence. He thinks Blake must have just hyped them up for nothing. He is ready to serve them a nice, hot plate of reality. The orange-haired kid goes for the first strike. He launches a massive fireball, barrels straight for the knight. But the knight just stands there, totally unimpressed. He does not even flinch. This is where the real test begins. He doesn't even flinch, just swings his sword once and calls that attack useless. He slices the magic in half before he can even gloat. The girl with black hair leaps into the fray, weaving her own dark magic spell. She fires a concentrated blast of pure energy straight at his face. He dodges again, easily knocking her to the ground while dismissing her attack as useless too. For a split second, the knight actually looks a little surprised. He realizes they've started using magic to boost their physical speed and strength. He cracks a small smile, admitting their teamwork isn't half bad, but he keeps going effortlessly, parrying every single spell they throw at him with his blade, even as the girls use their new speed to attack from every angle. He's just too fast. It leaves the kids exhausted, realizing how massive the power gap still is, standing there completely untouched. The knight just taunts them, asking if that's really all they've got. That's the final straw. The trainees decide it's time to go all or nothing. They quickly surround him, locking in position for one last coordinated strike. All 3 of them leap into the air, closing in from every direction and unleash their newly mastered magic in a final, desperate gambit. Their combined power erupts in a massive multi-elemental blast right on top of the knight. He's genuinely shocked to realize their strength has already hit an intermediate level. For the first time, he's actually forced to block their attack head-on, barely weaving his way through that absolute storm of spells. When the smoke finally clears, he's still standing there without a scratch. It leaves. The orange-haired kid totally crushed, knowing he dodged. Even that, from the sidelines, one of the hero's party members declares the fight over as the trainees collapse to the floor. They're completely out of mana and feeling defeated. But Blake steps forward with a proud smile, telling them they should be proud of their growth. The kids look up from the ground, exhausted, but listening to their teacher. That's when the knight delivers his final verdict. They all pass the test. This completely confuses the squad, since they didn't even manage to land a single hit. But the knight admits their magic was genuinely impressive, even kneeling down to tell them their progress in just 3 weeks was remarkable. He says he's now confident they'll be fine for the mission. It leaves them all speechless. Blake comes over to congratulate his students on a job. Well done, these trainees are absolutely ecstatic, finally. Well done, the trainees are absolutely ecstatic. Finally, time to move on. They made it, celebrating together, fully realized they finally did it. All that brutal, non-stop training, it's paying off in a huge way. Alice and Etta watch the wholesome scene, a small smile on their faces. They share a look, commenting on that great master-disciple bond. They agree with Blake's team on the job. The ceremony should be safe. But meanwhile, a mysterious, hooded guy watches from the crowd. He waits, hoping everything goes smoothly. 3 long weeks pass. Finally, the day of the Demon King subjugation ceremony is here. The whole city is alive, cheering for the legendary hero's party. They ride through the parade, Blake and his 2 companions standing tall. Right there on the main float, our newly minted guard squad follows. They're on high alert, feeling every ounce of pressure from the event. Blake glances back, hoping Alice and Etta are doing all right. But back in the carriage, his party members are far too relaxed. They're already trying to strike up some casual, light-hearted conversation. He shuts that down fast. Stay focused on the mission. He knows they absolutely cannot afford to fail this escort duty. It turns out the hero and her companions are being hunted. Assassins are out for them, and Blake has already warned the trainees. He knows about the constant threats and the looming kidnapping attempts. Their orders are simple, brutal, protect the hero's party with their lives. Blake keeps his eyes peeled, scanning the crowd for any sign of trouble. That's when we spot our hooded friend from before. He looks absolutely furious, seething about some worthless piece of trash. Pay attention, here is where the parade turns into a nightmare. He shoves through the onlookers, making a direct beeline for the parade. He steps right in front of the float, screaming for them to stop. The whole party looks down, completely caught off guard by the outburst. Blake's eyes widen. He's shocked to recognize the guy. He calls him out by name. It's Gunter, that knight who tested the trainees earlier today. Blake immediately hops off the float to handle this situation. He orders the guards to capture Gunter, showing no mercy if he fights. But Gunter is totally unhinged, muttering that Alice belongs to him. He vows to kill Blake right here, right now. When a guard steps in, he just gives him a creepy, twisted smile. He blasts the guard with a massive fire spell to clear his path. The entire crowd erupts into a full-blown, chaotic panic. People are screaming, running for their lives as the flames spread. Everyone realizes now he's a powerful magician. He stands steady in the middle of the roaring fire. Then Etta comes sprinting onto the scene to help out. She immediately unleashes a water spell to fight back. Water slams into the fire, dousing the guards caught in the blast. Seeing that chaos, you can tell this fight is far from over. The moment they get their chance, that new guard squad leaps in, straight into the middle of the chaos, teaming up with those 2 kids. They tackle Gunter to the ground, and man, he completely loses it, screaming that they are nothing but foolish commoners thrashing around. But they hold him down pretty easily, pinning him flat to the street. Even with his face in the dirt, he is just cursing everyone out. He stares up at the hero's float and starts ranting like a madman. If he cannot have someone, then no one can. he is losing his mind. He decides to burn it all down, unleashing a massive point-blank attack. An explosion ready to take everyone out with him. It is pure madness. But that white-haired trainee just watches the blast, completely unfazed. Because Blake suddenly appears, standing right there in the smoke. He effortlessly blocks that entire explosion with just one hand. Gunter is absolutely stunned, finally realizing who just stopped him. He sees, calling Blake a damn barrier mage for interfering yet again. Blake just stands over the defeated Gunter, cool and collected. He is totally unfazed by the whole ordeal, like it is nothing at all. Alice looks down at the guy, completely confused by the display. She asks why he would cause such a scene while he is pinned there. Gunter starts screaming for Alice to come back to him right now, ranting like a total psycho about some love confession that never happened. Alice is just completely baffled, pointing out they have barely spoken. But Gunter is already being dragged away by the guards. He is still insisting they were deeply in love, his voice cracking. His desperate cries echo through the street as the crowd watches on. It is a total meltdown, and Etta just calls him pitiful for it. He is so lost in his own delusions, and honestly, it is sad. This whole thing has Alice super flustered, turning to Blake. She blurts out that she has never even dated anyone in her life. That clearly catches him off guard. He wasn't expecting that. Etta just watches this exchange with a knowing little smirk. Then she gets Alice's attention to make sure she is actually okay. With the situation handled, a guard announces the attacker is in custody. The crowd erupts in cheers, totally impressed by the hero's escorts. Everyone is buzzing about how well they handled that sudden threat. The parade gets back on track, moving through the city once again. Alice admits she is so glad they hired Blake for this job. She feels much safer with him around, and it really shows. He just gives a humble smile, totally downplaying his own role, saying he only put up a simple barrier. He is way too modest. Alice looks over at the trainee squad, adding that they are skilled. Blake nods, explaining that even if people call them dropouts, he disagrees. He thinks they are excellent, watching them with a proud look. He finished with a confident smile, clearly believing in their potential. He adds that they just have not found their moment yet. They haven't realized their own true potential yet, not even after the big parade. The trainee squad gets a golden ticket to attend the official celebration party. Sven is completely losing his mind. He is just in pure awe of this massive, fancy ballroom packed with high-ranking nobles. His own teammates try to get him to chill, telling him he is being totally embarrassing. But the white-haired trainee actually backs him up, reminding them they were personally invited here. Of course, some snotty-looking nobles are already giving them the side-eye from across the room, and the kids quickly notice. Everyone staring, realizing they don't exactly blend in. Suddenly, Alice shows up to check on them, asking if they're having a good time, which completely catches the whole squad off guard, leaving them totally flustered. Turns out both Alice and Etta got all dressed up for the occasion, and they look absolutely stunning. In their formal party dresses, even those judgmental nobles from before are now completely captivated by their beauty, as the two of them just stand there looking effortlessly elegant. While everyone gawks, the white-haired trainee steps up to compliment them, saying they look gorgeous. Alice is super happy with the praise, thanking him with a big smile. Etta, on the other hand, is a little more reserved with her gratitude. Just then, Blake makes his entrance, also looking sharp, and praises the white-haired kid for his performance. He humbly gives credit to Sven and the others for their hard work, though, which immediately gives Sven a big head, pointing to himself like he is the real MVP. His teammates just roll their eyes, commenting on how quickly praise goes to his head. So Blake turns his attention to Clara, making sure to praise her for handling things so well too. Clara gets super shy from all the praise, blushing like crazy. And she gets so flustered she tells him he is praising her way too much. This catches the attention of Blake's party members, who wonder when he got so close with Lancelot. He and Sven just stand there looking cool, soaking in the attention. For a moment, as the party gets into full swing, the trainees try to enjoy themselves, though mostly by demolishing the buffet. While nobles gossip about how shabby they look, one particularly snotty guy sneers that the hero's escorts just do not belong. In high society, Blake, who overhears this, admits he is feeling a bit uncomfortable himself. He changes the subject, asking his companion where the other two members of their party are, but apparently one is skipping the party and the other got swarmed by admirers. Blake seems a little disappointed he cannot greet them, but he is told they will meet eventually. So, with the orchestra, the party rages on, leaving Blake stuck on the sidelines. He is just standing there, looking pretty lost and out of place. That is until his teammate grabs his hand, pulling him in close. She is fired up, insisting it is time to dance, which catches our guy completely off guard since he has never even tried it. She just drags him onto the floor anyway, ignoring his hesitation. She promises him it will be fine, and with a quick, confident wink, she tells him to just follow her lead. He looks super nervous at first, while she is clearly having the time of her life, but he starts getting into the rhythm. She guides him through the steps, and after a few awkward moves, they are both smiling, dancing gracefully in the middle of the ballroom. Meanwhile, Clara and Anna just stand there, looking totally bored with it all. Sven and the black-haired girl are having a blast by the buffet. And here is where things get interesting. Lancelot finally approaches Edda. He reaches out a hand, formally asking for a dance with her. She absolutely lights up, grabbing his hand and shouting an enthusiastic yes. As they start moving, the red-haired hero watches them from the side. A small, genuine smile appears on his face for the first time. His companion notices, genuinely surprised he is even capable of such warmth. He admits that meeting Blake seems to have changed him quite a bit. She totally gets it, agreeing that Blake is a pretty special person. She muses that he seems to influence everyone around him, for better or worse. The talk shifts to the attacker from the parade, Lord Gunther. His companion asks what is going to happen to him now, and he grimly states that Gunther will most likely be executed for his crimes. Cut to the man himself, looking absolutely terrified in his prison cell. She takes in the news with a somber expression, clearly a little shaken. The hero tries to comfort her, saying it was not her fault, as Gunther was obsessed, which seems to work as she thanks him. A few days later, the celebration ends and it is time to move on. The whole group gathers outside the castle, ready for the next leg. Lancelot points out they are heading on an expedition right after the ceremony. It is a tough schedule, but Alice just cheerfully accepts it as duty. She mentions their report on the Demon King, which keeps them busy. Lancelot adds that it is also a political flex for their kingdom, though honestly Blake would much rather be back home studying. The entire group gathers outside the castle, ready to depart. For the next leg of their journey, Lancelot points it out. Now watch this, they are immediately heading on an expedition. After the ceremony, calling it a pretty tough schedule. But Alice just cheerfully accepts it as the hero party's duty. Mentioning their report on the Demon King, Lancelot adds a thought. It is also a political flex for their kingdom, he notes, though Blake would honestly rather be back inside studying. At the barrier, the hero tells Blake to stay sharp. Look after the capital while we're away, the hero adds. Blake just gives a simple got it, totally unbothered by the weight of it. Edda rushes over to him, needing a quick private word. She gets right in his face, whispering that she's counting on him again. Blake just agrees with a calm smile. He pats her head, leaving the entire trainee squad in complete shock. With that, the carriage takes off as the squad waves goodbye. Lancelot and the hero shout for them to have a safe trip. The carriage disappears down the road, leaving them behind. Sven just watches them go, stating the obvious about the silence. The hero points out this is the party's first time leaving since the Demon King fell. But get this, Lancelot's expression turns grim, his look darkening. That serious glare hints that things aren't as peaceful as they seem. The scene cuts to Gunther rotting in a dark cell. Someone hopes aloud that nothing bad happens while they're gone. Yeah, about that, a super creepy grin flashes across Gunther's face. He's clearly plotting something, and it's definitely about to go down. 1 week after the hero leaves, the city seems perfectly calm. Time just ticks by without a single major incident, except for Gunther, who is still just sitting in his cell. He's locked away, but he's clearly building towards something. While the hero's party is far off, Gunther is just stewing. And yeah, he's definitely cooking up a nasty revenge plot. With that look on his face, several weeks slip by. Blake has been pushing the trainee squad through intense magic drills. Finally, he calls the session to a halt for the day. The whole squad is completely wiped out, gasping for air. They're complaining that they've hit their absolute limit. Sven immediately starts whining to Lancelot for a real mission. Clara argues that no missions just means the kingdom is finally at peace. But Sven is itching for a fight, bragging about their strength. He's demanding some excitement, but his outburst gets cut short. Lancelot's eyes suddenly go wide, and he freezes. It completely freaks Finn out. He starts apologizing, thinking he's in trouble for being too loud. Lancelot isn't even listening, though. He senses something massive approaching and grimly says it's coming. Right on cue, a knight comes sprinting in with urgent news. He screams that a wave of miasma is heading for the capital. The trainees are stunned. Miasma is a death sentence. Blake and Lancelot share a look that says it all. Here we go. Without a second's hesitation, Blake powers up his aura. He leads the squad into action, ready for whatever is coming. The soldiers stand ready, eyes locked on the sky above. A horrifying purple cloud of demonic energy rolls in fast. Below them, the civilians can only stare up in total silence. Pure terror hits. They have no clue what is happening. The miasma crashes into the streets and the screaming starts. A mother frantically tries to escape, clutching her young son. But the little guy trips. He hits the ground hard. Darkness closes in around them. There is no way out. She throws herself over him, shielding him with her own body. Suddenly, a bright blue light envelops them both. A barrier forms just in time, holding the corrupting energy back. A massive pillar of light shoots into the sky from the capital. It expands, turning into a gigantic dome over the city. This seal cuts the entire place off from that cursed miasma. The survivors stare up in awe at the glowing shield. It just saved every single one of them from certain death. Lancelot watches as the demonic fog dissipates against the edge. Blake explains he just put up a little shield around the capital. Lancelot is stunned by the sheer scale of the magic. He asks how long he can possibly maintain a spell like that. Blake just casually says probably a few months, like it is nothing. He admits he had to rush it without a proper magic circle. Their conversation is cut short. Explosions rock the city from within. Watch this. The real nightmare is just getting started. A couple of unhinged mages in hoods are leading the assault. They scream for their forces to kill every soul in sight. Followers start blasting the civilians with fire magic. Total chaos erupts in the streets. People are everywhere. Lancelot realizes with horror, this is not a monster attack. It is a civil war. He instantly takes command of the situation. He tells Blake to hold the barrier while he deploys the squads. As he leaps into action, he wonders if this is a rebellion, or maybe a foreign invasion from another country entirely. Sven and the girls are running through the carnage. They are totally blindsided by this sudden, brutal attack. A hooded mage targets a young girl with a massive fireball. Lancelot intercepts the blast, swiping it away with his hand. He takes charge, ordering everyone to prioritize civilian safety. Sven takes it to heart, shielding a kid from another explosion. The rest of the royal magicians jump into the fray. They use their own power to counter the attackers head-on. The squad starts directing people towards safe evacuation routes. That gets them noticed by the hooded mages nearby. They mark the group as primary targets to be eliminated. Sven barely dodges a massive fire spell aimed right at him. Right at them, but it only seems to tick the attackers off. Perched high on the rooftops, the black-haired girl doesn't flinch. She dances around their attacks seriously. Their aim is just pathetic. That's Clara's signal. She steps up, hands glowing with power. A massive enhancement buff hits the squad. Now, Sven and his partner are feeling it, ready to deal some real payback. They unleash a perfectly coordinated magical strike right at those enemy mages. The attack lands dead on, clearing out the first wave in. One massive, beautiful blast. Sven is absolutely buzzing, bragging that this fight is a total breeze compared to Blake's brutal training sessions. Clara, though, has a quick flashback to that nightmare. She's pretty sure she almost died twice over. Their victory lap gets cut short as more hooded figures pour out of the shadows. They're completely swarmed now. Realizing they're outnumbered, the trainees stand back to back. Sven doesn't even hesitate. He charges straight into the mob, letting loose a massive fire blast that lights up the street. Clara dives in too, swirling white magic to cut through the chaos, while her partner hammers the mages with a volley of dark energy. But in the middle of all this madness, a small child is stranded right in the center of the street, crying his heart out. Clara spots him instantly, but it's already too late. A hooded mage takes aim from across the square, charging up a spell. He launches a massive fireball straight at the defenseless boy. Clara doesn't even think. She just bolts forward at blinding speed, throwing her body in front of the kid. Her teammate screams, watching in pure horror as the spell connects. A massive explosion swallows the entire corner of the square. Sven and the others stand frozen, staring at the wall of flame. Terrified of what they're going to find, Sven is stunned, muttering no way under his breath. But as the smoke clears, a shimmering blue barrier appears. They're both perfectly safe. Clara stands there holding the crying child, a bit rattled, but she doesn't have a single scratch on her. Her squad mates let out a relieved, if slightly awkward, smile. Then they notice something else. It isn't just Clara. Protective barriers are popping up around every single civilian. The people inside are totally baffled as spells just bounce right off them. Sven looks around in disbelief. Seeing everyone covered by a personal shield, his mind snaps to the only person capable of this level of magic. It's Blake, casually casting a massive protection spell on every citizen in the square. Clara's partner, now furious, unleashes her full power, absolutely blasting one of the mages for daring to target innocent people. Her friend Sven and the others rush over, checking on Clara. She's still clutching the kid she saved, explaining it all. She says Blake's barrier popped up just in time to protect her. Finn looks stunned, wondering how he could cast it from so far away. But her partner realizes something else. It is not just them. Look at this, barriers are flickering to life on everyone in the city. Civilians are staring at their own hands in total shock, suddenly invincible. The squad realizes the truth. Blake has shielded every single person. He's protecting the entire capital all at once. Clara just smiles, thinking that Blake is even more amazing than she imagined. But elsewhere, things are moving fast. Lancelot recognizes Blake's handiwork and orders his men to use the protection. One of his knights reports that rebel forces are absolutely overwhelming them. The king himself is in danger. When Lancelot calls for backup from the Magic Corps, there is no one left. He is caught in a bind. He cannot abandon the civilians, but the castle is just minutes away. Gritting his teeth, he is forced to make an impossible choice between the people and his king. He decides to trust the Knight Corps to hold the castle, even though his men know they will be completely outnumbered. He declares it is fine because Blake will provide the support they need. His subordinate immediately gets the order, ready for the fight ahead. He realizes Lancelot's trust in Blake must be absolute. It is a massive call to make. Lancelot powers up his magic, putting all his faith in our boy. The battle for the capital rages on. Down in the streets, Lancelot's knight rallies the troops. He is screaming for them to defend the castle from the invaders. But one of the hooded mages just laughs maniacally. He is charging up a huge fire spell. He launches the attack right at the main castle gate. The mages try to bolt, taunting the knights as they go, only to slam face first into an invisible barrier appearing out of nowhere. They are completely stunned, realizing instantly this has to be Blake's doing. He has sealed the entire castle entrance with a perfect shield. Before they can even react, one mage gets taken out. A swift, precise strike. Lancelot's subordinate cuts through their ranks like a total badass. He gives them a stone-cold glare. He does not even break a sweat. He looks up with a grin, thanking Blake for the cover. Speaking of our boy, he's just floating there calmly. He is managing all these citywide barriers when he suddenly senses something. A massive attack incoming, a huge, combined volley of magic from the heavy hitters. Blake just raises his hands, looking completely unimpressed by the whole spectacle. He effortlessly catches the entire blast with a single hand. He casually dissipates the attack like it's nothing more than a puff of smoke. But a new threat emerges from the chaos, the monstrous hand reaching for him. Without even flinching, Blake grabs that massive claw with his own. He stops the monster's momentum dead in its tracks. With a single flex, Blake shatters the monster's arm into dust. He stands there in the aftermath, totally unfazed by the ordeal. This finally draws out the rebellion's leader, who seems shocked Blake is unharmed. A smug, blonde-haired nobleman appears, flanked by his hooded goons. Blake immediately recognizes him as Gunther. He asks if he is behind this entire rebellion. Gunther completely loses his mind, screaming about his noble status. Now watch this, he goes full rage mode, promising to end him right there. Our boy just sighs, completely unimpressed by the childish tantrum. That seems to make Gunther realize he's lost his cool. He straightens his collar, trying to act all dignified again. Blake asks why he isn't in prison, to which Gunther boasts about his supporters. The mere idea of this guy having supporters seems to genuinely confuse Blake. Gunther cuts him off, saying there's no need to talk anymore. He claims he's about to power up and finish this right now. Blake, ever the patient one, just calmly asks for his motive. That simple question seems to trigger Gunther all over again. He starts screaming that it's all Blake's fault. Pointing an accusatory finger, he rants about being demoted and sent to the borderlands. But the real kicker, he whines that Blake took his beloved Alice. He blames our boy for getting in his way and ruining every plan. Gunther continues the tantrum, screaming that everything is Blake's fault. Blake just stands there, completely unfazed by the accusation. He thinks to himself that this sounds exactly like karma catching up to him. That just makes Gunther look even more unhinged. Blake calmly points out that if Gunther had lived a decent life, none of this would happen. You feel that tension? Right, that rational take completely shatters Gunther's sanity. Our boy then adds that Alice herself told him Gunther was never her lover. He basically calls out his entire delusion on the spot. He tells the guy it's better to stop. The realization makes Gunther look even more unhinged than before. Blake points out that a decent life would have prevented all this. It is a rational take that shatters what is left of Gunther's mind. Then he drops the bomb. Alice told him Gunther was never her lover, calling out his entire delusion right to his face. He tells the guy it is better to stop this now. But Gunther is too far gone. He is done listening to reason. He reveals a sinister purple stone, pulsing with dark energy, blaming everyone else for his own mess. That's the final straw. It sends Gunther into a full-blown, homicidal rage. He starts powering up, convinced there is no way Blake could possibly maintain barriers over the whole capital, especially not while fighting him and his squad of supposedly seasoned mages. Gunther looks absolutely ecstatic, believing he is finally about to get his revenge, so he and his goons start casting. All at once, they launch a massive, combined magical blast straight at our boy. With Gunter cackling, certain this is the finishing blow, his entire squad pours all their power into the attack. This beam of raw, destructive energy barrels toward its target, only for Blake to casually raise one hand and stop it. Dead in its tracks, it just makes Gunter scream for his mages to pour even more magic in. Those mages keep straining, dumping every last ounce of their power into the combined spell. Now watch this, Gunter is screaming like a madman for them too. Finally take Blake down. Their attack is a massive swirling vortex, a chaotic mix of elements, basically a rainbow. Colored death beam aimed right at our boy, yet Blake is still just standing there, holding it all back with one hand. He finally decides he has had enough of this nonsense and prepares a counter. He casually forms a small sphere of his own blue energy. With a simple push, his little ball of energy completely shatters their ultimate attack. He stays standing there as their combined spell just crumbles into dust. He looks so unbelievably bored by the whole thing, it is almost insulting. This, of course, sends Gunter into another fit of rage, screaming for a second volley. His mages immediately launch a barrage of spells from all directions. Blake just effortlessly weaves through the incoming attacks like he is taking a casual stroll, landing gracefully as a spell explodes right where he was standing. The attackers are stunned he dodged it, but Gunter just orders them to keep firing. They resort to flooding the area with a massive wave of fire, which Blake simply leaps over without even breaking a sweat. Gunter calls him a fool, screaming that there is nowhere left for him to run, completely ignoring the fact that Blake is just floating above the flames, totally fine. Our boy then starts charging up his own spell, clearly ready to end this little tantrum. Blake gathers his energy into a sharp crystal, a deadly attack. Ready to shut this down, he plunges it straight into the sea of fire that Gunter's mages created, which completely extinguishes the flames in a massive blast as he lands. Standing there looking graceful, he doesn't have a single scratch on him. He seems completely unfazed by their pathetic attempts at an attack. Gunter just smirks, convinced that this is all Blake can manage. He thinks holding up the citywide barriers is draining every bit of power. He starts ranting, sure that Blake is going to burn out soon. Blake will die, he claims, just for trying to save those worthless citizens. You know the type, just a classic, arrogant villain monologue before the fight. Blake just stays calm looking at him and tells him he's wrong. It's because of everyone, he says, that he can keep fighting like this. This absolute hero moment makes Gunter grind his teeth in pure rage. He's screaming at Blake, calling him a self-righteous, annoying hypocrite. His mages launch another barrage of fireballs, trying to overwhelm our hero. Gunter's in disbelief when Blake dodges the whole thing yet again. Our boy just leaps straight through the embers, completely untouched by the blast. He blitzes forward, eyes glowing, clearly done playing these little games. Ready for this, things are about to go from 0 to 100. He unleashes a wave of raw magic, sending those hooded mages flying. Gunter is left absolutely stunned as his entire backup gets wiped out. Before he can even react, shadowy tendrils erupt from the ground below. They snare him and his goons, pinning them down in place. The guy is frozen in pure terror, having no clue what is happening. It turns out Blake is standing right there on a floating platform. He's using a mobile barrier technique to trap them all at once. Blake starts explaining that barrier magic comes in so many different flavors. There's the offensive kind he's been using to take them apart. And, of course, the defensive ones that everyone already knows about. But as he gathers his energy, he reveals a third type. A healing barrier technique, apparently, that is a thing now. This completely breaks Gunter, who starts screaming about how overpowered that is. He's ranting that barriers are for defense and only holy magic heals. He just cannot comprehend how our boy is pulling this off. Blake gives him a thoughtful look, like he's actually pondering the question. Then he casually suggests it's because he just trained really hard. Honestly, that has to be the ultimate troll answer. Gunta absolutely loses it and orders his goons to attack again. But Blake is already on the move, launching another offensive barrier. He just blitzes through the entire squad in one single pass. Gunter can only watch in pure, unadulterated terror as it happens. Blake stands over the defeated mages, his eyes still glowing bright. He coldly tells Gunter that he's the only one left standing. Then, in a flash of blue light, he teleports right behind him. He calmly asks the guy if he's ready to surrender yet. Instead of answering, Gunter just starts laughing like a total psycho. You won't believe what he's pulling out, the sinister purple stone. Watch this, the real nightmare is just about to start. He calls his trump card Gunter in a move of pure desperation, pops the purple stone right into his mouth and just swallows the thing whole because, that's a totally normal thing to do. He erupts in a torrent of dark, crackling energy as he powers up. Meanwhile, Blake just watches, looking completely unimpressed by this tired villain transformation trope. Dark veins spread across Gunter's face, his eyes turning pitch black, followed by a super creepy grin showing off his newly sharpened teeth. Now fully transformed, he starts ranting about how he's become invincible, and he makes it 1,000 times. Worse, by bragging he was saving this specifically for Alice. He's absolutely convinced that with this power, even the actual hero would have to bow down, but Blake just calmly tells him that is not going to happen. This simple, cold denial sends Gunter into another rage as he gathers a massive ball of dark energy, screaming at Blake while launching his ultimate. Attacks straight at him. The giant death ball hurtles down, but Blake just casually throws up a barrier to block it, then starts redirecting the entire attack. With a single hand gesture, he sends the whole thing flying off into the distance where it explodes harmlessly, which just makes Gunter scream even louder about Blake acting like some righteous guardian. So he launches the exact same massive attack again, expecting a different result, and once again, it barrels down towards Blake's waiting barrier. Our boy effortlessly redirects the blast a second time, looking bored out of his mind, sending it to detonate safely away from the city once more. Blake finally decides to go on the offensive, cutting through the lingering flames, but Gunter just screams for him to die. While launching another volley of dark magic, our boy effortlessly dodges the attacks, weaving through the purple energy like it's nothing, which just makes Gunter laugh, maniacally taunting that Blake's cold demeanor is gone. He gathers his dark power for what he's sure will be the finishing blow, unleashing a massive swirling vortex straight at our hero. The attack lands with a huge explosion, seemingly engulfing Blake completely, but when the smoke clears, he's just standing there in a barrier with only a few minor scrapes. Gunter is absolutely livid, screaming that Blake is on death's door and his barriers are useless, ordering his last two mages to combine their attacks for one final push. His victory rant is cut short when he sees something that leaves him completely shocked because a different explosion suddenly erupts nearby. It's Blake's students who've arrived on the scene to provide some much-needed backup. They report that they've already cleared out the other rebels nearby. They yell for him to quit holding back and just fight. Fighting with everything he's got, that just makes Gunter rage harder. He promises to take them all down, but threatening his students. That's the last straw for Blake, and his eyes start to glow intensely. And for the first time, Gunter looks genuinely terrified by the look on his face. Then, suddenly, a massive wave of blue energy erupts from Blake, washing over the entire capital as his students look on in absolute awe. The scale of his power, those kids are bathed in his overwhelming blue aura, totally shocked by this insane display. Blake's power explodes into a massive pillar of pure Raw energy, this swirling vortex shows the true scale of what he was hiding, and the kids can barely stand, completely blown away by the power their teacher actually possesses. One girl just clasps her hands together and prays for him to win, calling out to the old man in pure faith. Blake just stands there, eyes glowing, finally done with all this nonsense. But Gunter, of course, starts screaming that it's too late for Blake to get serious. He launches another massive vortex of dark magic, still ranting that he's unbeatable. The attack lands with a huge, deafening explosion that coats the entire area, and with a psychotic grin, Gunter asks if our boy is finally down for the count. But then, a single footstep, Blake just walks right out of the smoke, emerging without a single scratch on him. Looking as calm as ever, this completely breaks Gunter, who just cannot believe Blake survived a direct hit. So, he powers up again, vowing to keep attacking until something finally sticks. Another blast of dark magic flies at Blake, who doesn't even flinch, and this makes Gunter lose it, screaming about how his top-tier magic is being blocked. In response, Blake just calmly raises a single finger, gathering his energy, and suddenly traps Gunter inside a hexagonal prison of solid blue magic. That guy immediately starts panicking, screaming for Blake to let him out, but instead, the barrier begins to violently constrict, crushing him. With pure, heavy magical force, the cage tightens with overwhelming power, completely crushing Gunter's last bit of resistance, leaving him collapsed on the ground. Muttering about how impossibly versatile Blake's magic is, having a full-on meltdown about what barriers are even supposed to be, Blake just calmly tells him that the protective barriers finally drop, one by one. The hero's dark aura fades away. He's done. Gunter just stares at the disaster, calling it a complete mess. Then, he finally passes out, totally and utterly spent. As the chaos dies down, a real sense of peace returns to the capital. Blake hears a familiar sound rising from the street below. His students are calling out to him, waving like crazy. They're thrilled their teacher actually pulled through. Clara leads the charge, rushing forward with the rest. They swarm him, tackling him in a massive, celebratory hug. Blake's caught off guard, but he gives her a warm smile. He thanks her for the support, leaving the other students stunned. She's being so forward, but she quickly pulls back. Clara apologizes for getting carried away. She was just so relieved. Just then, a red-haired swordsman steps into the scene. He asks if Blake is all right, clutching a creepy stone totem. He points to it, identifying it as the source of all that miasma. It's a cursed tool, he explains, triggered by the user's magic. Everyone wonders why Gunter had something so dangerous. Blake remembers Gunter bragging about his powerful backer. The swordsman starts piecing together this attack and the Monster Village incident. He questions if these strange events are just a coincidence. Or maybe, he suggests, it is all part of a bigger conspiracy. You have to wonder what kind of shadows are moving here. The red-haired swordsman confirms that thanks to Blake, the city is safe. He extends a hand, offering his genuine gratitude. He gives Blake all the credit for the win. Blake accepts the handshake, finally earning the hero party's respect. A few weeks pass, and the king issues a royal decree. Blake is officially appointed as the new court barrier mage. The other nobles are shocked by such an unprecedented move, but even they have to admit he really earned that title. His students in the crowd are absolutely losing their minds. They are cheering for him, pure excitement on their faces. Even the hero party gives him a round of applause for the promotion. Blake just stands there, right in the royal court. He looks completely bewildered, wondering how he ended up here. His butler is just as stunned to land an official position too. They get led through the palace halls, moving deeper inside. Blake has no idea where they're heading until he's pushed forward. He's out on a balcony, facing a massive, roaring crowd. For his big debut, he looks completely overwhelmed. There are so many people here just to see him. One of the heroes tells him to just get out there and wave. Blake gives his new fans a super hesitant wave. Blake gives a small, awkward wave, still pretty unused to all this. The crowd erupts in cheers, totally blown away by his actions. Back at the ceremony, everyone keeps thanking him for saving their city. Finally, Blake collapses onto a couch, absolutely drained from the whole ordeal. He can barely believe he's officially a court magician now. And get this, he's even got his own fancy room to stay in. He reflects on all the support, from his students to the heroes' party. They all congratulated him. It's a first. Maybe he can finally have some real confidence in his barrier techniques. But now he's left wondering, what's he supposed to do with all this fame? The weight of this new responsibility is hitting him hard. Barrier mages are usually treated like they're totally incompetent. He knows that feeling, the frustration, being looked down on. Then it hits him. He's got an idea to spread the truth. Barriers aren't useless. They're a power that truly protects people. He decides to gather other barrier mages and show everyone their real value. He's fired up now, dedicated to protecting people all over the world. This is where his legend truly begins, as he prepares to change everything. But somewhere else, a girl clutches a glowing curse mark on her chest. She's calling out for help, trapped in pain. She cries out in agony, begging for Blake to save her. A new, darker arc begins right now.